Us being Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Robert Walsh, our producer, and my name is Will Bowling. It is Thursday, June the 29th. We have got a packed Friday Junior for you. We've got Coach Dave McGinnis. We've got INDYCAR driver Devlin DeFrancesco, Bryant McFadden of CBS Sports, and the second installment of the RKW Draft. A good morning to have a good morning. How are we, friends?
We're good, man. Living the life.
I had to let Ramon in.
What happened?
I had to call you out. You know it. Well, I drove up and, got to the gate, and I saw this car just waiting. I said, what kind of creep is sitting out here waiting outside the studio? And then I pulled up. I was like,
creep.
That's a nice car
Usually
there.
creeps don't drive BMWs.
Right? That's a nice car. So I said, oh, man, it's Moan. And I either said he's distracted. Maybe he's like, cheating, eating a burger when he's not supposed to. No, he forgot his card. So I let him in, and I said, don't do it again.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. We all do it. I've done it like several times.
Twice for me, though.
Right.
Yeah, this is twice for me. Me over there scarfing down shrimp and grits or something. This morning, let me be good. Nah, not this morning, boy. I got my I walked out of the house and I'm grabbing my breakfast, my protein coffee shake, and I grabbed my water, and I had to get a cup out. So it was like four things at once. Then I grabbed my iPad, and I was like, walk out of the house. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. You know what? Lo and behold, the car I drive, you don't have to have keys for it. My phone is the key. Yep. So I was just like, I'm good to go.
Yeah, again, a creep wouldn't have that.
Hide the money, y'all. There's poor people around.
Hide the money, y'all. That's such a good drop right there. But yeah, that's twice this week.
That is.
Ooh,
that is. You had to let me in on Tuesday, I think. Well, Monday, Tuesday also.
It's like, what's the video of the Jets player that tries to open the door to get in the facility?
With Seattle now.
Jamal Adams.
And then his code doesn't work. He's like, hey, what? How do I?
You're getting close to Buck status now.
I am, man.
Don't worry, Ramon. We did not trade you for cash considerations or a player to be named later.
We did not.
Man. I appreciate that. And also,
we will if anyone gives us a good enough offer.
We've just received no cash consideration offers.
Right.
Just none.
Just future picks 4 years from now.
We only got consideration, no cash.
Eventually, we'll get above board. But I must say my draft stock has to be ahead of Bucks because I actually show up like way ahead of time.
Yeah, on time.
Right. Don't I get something for that? Like,
sure.
I get something to the Sizzler for that, right? A gift card?
Maybe. Oh, it
some
says
rolls.
A Sizzler gift card?
Some rolls? Not the ones they throw
Rolls
at
Royce?
you. No.
That's what he's
He
accustomed
probably
to.
has one of those.
Yeasty bread. No, Rolls Royce. I never thought about getting one
I
of
don't
those.
really think those are attractive.
I think they are.
They
I
look
just
like them.
But they're so big.
They're just so noticeable.
Dude, I'd be running over people, running into curbs.
That thing is a tank.
I couldn't park that thing.
I remember when people were doing the 300Cs, the Chryslers, and like converting them into, it looked like a Rolls Royce. No, until a real Rolls Royce rolls up next to you, and you realize that thing is 2 parking spots big. You ever seen one?
Mm-hmm.
Them things are huge.
They're wide.
Wide.
Yep.
Elephant in the room. Elephant on the street is what they are.
They're the offensive line of
They
NASCAR.
are.
Yeah.
They are the offensive line of the roads. They are. Unless you drive a F-250 that's jacked up.
I wonder what kind of car you'd be if you were a car.
If I was a car,
we might have to ponder that later.
I'd tell you exactly what I'd be.
Uh-oh.
I'd tell you exactly what. This might be a radio topic. I'd be a 1986. No, 1989. No, give me a 1986.
Oh, my God.
You said I know exactly what I'm going to be.
Yeah,
Well,
I know because I'm going back
actually-
to. I'm making sure the lights on the car is right. A 1986 Chevy Caprice, box Chevy. I'd be a box Chevy.
Okay.
It's a wide, big metal car,
Yeah.
carburetor still, big seats, bench seats.
bench seats. Okay.
Yeah, big bench
So
seats.
nothing fancy.
No, I'll be a trusty old Chevy motor. Is what I be.
I was so worried about the bench seats. I'm really glad to know. That's clarified. I was anxious this morning.
The bench
Yeah.
seats. Yeah. What if we were in the movie cars? That'd be fascinating. But hey, that's neither here.
That's a
nor there.
great film.
I would probably just be Mater.
See?
There
Great
you go.
film.
There we go.
There you go.
I see Burt being Mater. Who would you be, Will?
I don't know. Adam in the F&M Bank chat incorrectly says Will's a Prius. I don't know why. I don't know what in the world makes me a Prius.
A Prius.
I think people like this who just sit behind their YouTube think that I'm like, I would imagine if people had to guess my height who watched this show, they'd probably guess I'm like 5'7" or 5'8". Like, I just look short next to you.
That's what it
Like,
is.
I'm like 6'1".
Yeah.
Like, a Prius would be like if I was 5'6".
Yeah, 5'5".
If I was a
Yeah.
left winger from, University of Connecticut that just got drafted to the Predators. Like, yeah, maybe I'm a smaller car.
Yeah.
Gotta have I'm a longer car.
I give
That dude's big.
Who's that?
Yeah,
The
he's
wood
6'4".
kid, yeah.
He's 6'4".
Holy
Yeah,
smokes.
he's huge.
Most like 16-year-old wingers drafted in the NHL draft last night are probably pushing
like
5'8",
5'10".
5'9". Yeah, that's right.
Seriously.
I would say Will's a Toyota Camry.
I'm gonna give him the Avalon.
Those are nice now, actually.
They are nice.
They are.
Yeah.
No, I didn't mean it as a
Oh, I
slight.
know.
Toyotas are
I
good
was
cars.
thinking out loud.
Or the Honda Accord, the one with the slant back. Yeah, I can see you being a sporty car like
the
that.
Honda Accord.
Yeah,
I'm
Bert,
sorry.
I was gonna say
The
like
Accord.
Wait, the Honda Accord.
Honda Accord.
I thought you just mixed
Hyundai.
2 brands. Oh my
You be a
gosh.
Hyundai Genesis.
A Honda Accord.
I was gonna say,
you know?
ooh.
Ooh, easy. Now
Those
we're
I was
getting-
gonna say a
Those are
Forerunner
smooth.
A 4.
Yeah.
because it's like, I don't know.
That was
Yeah.
like
It's
one
kind
of
of
my.
a
Get you
sporty
somebody who
car.
can do both.
Yeah, that's right. Come on.
Pretty much, man.
I'm surprised that you.
They're small on the inside, though, for me.
Yeah,
For you.
Yeah. I thought about that
I think
after I
everything is
said
for
it.
you.
Thought about that after I said it. You're 100% correct.
Kayla, what about you?
I don't know. You guys pick. Let's see if you'd be right.
What would
You'd
you
be
be?
some type of convertible.
I was gonna say like a
I don't like
Porsche convertible.
convertibles.
I was going to
Nope.
say
Psych.
a 911.
I hate. I'm sorry. What?
Porsche 911.
No,
Yeah,
I don't like any of the models. No.
Do you not?
Nope.
Okay. All right.
I
hold
don't
up.
like convertibles because my hair gets blown around.
Maybe like a Grand Tourer.
Adam also now
Yeah.
says Kayla's a Ferrari. Hope she sees this, bro. Adam shooting his shot from way downtown on the F&N Bank channel. What are we doing? Like, buddy, it's 6:08 in the morning.
I do never slow down.
Like,
so
Kayla,
there you go.
Kayla, I love you, but like, I mean, what are we? You're not Italian, first of all. You're,
No, I'm not. I'm Swedish. And that's
American.
why if you pick a new brand new, like anything that is a Volvo with like the
Yeah.
great looking sporty ones,
Yeah.
like the SUVs.
I'll,
that's me all day.
I'll give you a Hellcat.
What's
Yeah,
that?
you'd be a Dodge Hellcat.
A Dodge.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say like maybe
that's a nice car.
What about a Ford Mustang?
Mustang?
It's American.
That is. She says Swedish.
I'm Swedish.
I don't know
Norwegian.
what Swedish cars are.
Volvos.
Volvo. I don't know any model. No. The what is it? The P90, PC90,
Or a nice Cadillac.
Caddy.
Oh, now I can pimp out a
The
caddy.
Escalade.
There you go.
She can be
Yeah.
the electric
I mean, but I
one,
want the
classic.
old school
Yeah.
caddy. Like,
with the wings on the back.
yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
would do.
Okay. All right,
Mhm.
for sure. We gotta
Big
figure out your car because I
Cadillac.
feel like we really didn't settle on the real answer.
No, we didn't.
What was the car you really like? What was your dream car growing up? I had a
Oh.
very clear one.
Ooh.
Mine was the yellow and black Chevy Camaro because it was Bumblebee and Transformers,
Yeah.
and that was like a really cool movie.
Mhm.
Like Shia LaBeouf and Megan Fox. And when you're like, oh wow, hello, like Megan Fox. What's good day to you?
Will shoot
Hello,
a shot here
madam.
early.
Hope she sees this, Will.
Will from downtown.
Bang! From way downtown.
That's great.
Blocked by James. Blocked by Shia LaBeouf.
Machine Gun Kelly's.
No, that for
Yeah.
my generation, that was the first like girl actress. That was like the first actress. So you were just like,
Was
oh
it
my
really?
gosh, like
Yeah.
Megan Fox. Like, wow.
She is beautiful, though.
Yes, she is.
And she's from East Tennessee also. So clearly
She
I knew
is?
ball. Yeah, she's from Oak Ridge.
What
I did
the?
know that.
She quit drinking the water early.
Well,
boy.
look at,
Yeah,
look at who she ended up marrying. She moved out of Oak Ridge and then found a guy that looks like he
That's
stayed in Oak
true.
Ridge a little too long
That's
and
facts.
That's
maybe
true.
was in the hollers make a moonshine.
Man, I'm
think so.
telling you.
Machine gun
You're
kick.
not wrong.
I had two dream cars as a kid. One I know is still it's attainable but unattainable. Lamborghini Diablo.
I thought you were going to say a fire truck.
Well, I mean, I'm close on that
That'd
one.
be
okay?
cool.
The sirens would have been going off for me. If that
Yeah.
were the case.
Yeah.
The other one was a Ford Mustang.
Everybody
wanted that
loved
one.
those Ford
Me too.
Mustangs.
The sound is so
Yeah.
unique. I can tell a Mustang from almost any car
From
on
miles
the exhaust.
away.
Yeah, I can tell it. Yeah. But yeah, the Mustang and the Lamborghini Diablo. I used to get them in the book club. You remember I used to sell posters and stuff? That red one? Oh, I bought one of them for $5. Why the hell did I buy a poster for $5 in 1993? It's crazy.
Bad choice.
That's way too expensive.
Could've
Poster
spent-
prices have not gone up.
That's what
No.
I'm saying.
Big Poster is really raking it in. Big Poster has never been better.
It was abusing my youthful knack for cars is what they were doing. $5 for a poster,
You could have
man.
used it on a CD, bro.
I could have got some pencils and erasers. You feel me? Here I was buying a
Yes,
poster that
I mean,
broke
if
on
that's
me.
any better.
The pencil and erasers, we could have played pencil break with it at least. You feel me? The erasers, I could have broken apart and thrown them across the classroom. I was a little bit of a degenerate at times. I was. I can admit
At
that.
times. Ramon, why do you think this show's
Yeah.
why do you think this show works?
What, you think we're all saints on here?
I know, right? My bad. Yeah, that was me, though. What was your dream car, Kayla? Come on.
Man, I just don't think I was into cars.
A Range Rover? As an adult?
No, I
No
mean,
Range?
That
that,
was my other one.
I think
It was
here's the
another
thing. I did like the 4Runner, and I actually ended up driving a 4Runner at some
Nice.
point, and I actually wouldn't mind going back at some point to it.
Yeah.
I like bigger vehicles,
Mhm.
not like where I can't get parking right or whatever,
fair.
but just big enough where I feel like I'm not underneath anyone. I had a BMW once, guys, just a standard model. You guys, it
go
was
off.
but it was so low riding, and it just I didn't feel comfortable in it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I feel like your butt's dragging the road.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
Not
Well,
in your
then-
vehicle. That's a tank.
yeah, it sits up a little bit higher.
Mm-hmm.
It's a mini SUV is what it is. But I like the when I had the car, though, the sedan, that thing hugs the road, though, Kayla. You get going in that thing fast, though. Those BMW cars, they roll.
Mm-hmm.
It's true.
They do.
615-737-1045 is our number. Like we discussed, a loaded show this morning. We'll revisit our conversation with Joshua Perry of Valley Sports coming up next. We will get to Coach Dave McGinnis at 7:20 as we continue to remember the Titans. This time, the 2008 Titans. Not only the 25th anniversary of Titans football this season. It's been 15 years since the Titans were 13-3, led by Keith Bullock, Kerry Collins, and Albert Hainsworth. We dive into one of the best Titans teams over the last 15 years since they took the field with Coach Dave McGinnis, who was on staff at that time. So, again, the month of July, I know it's not July yet, but the next 3-4 weeks until training camp, we go down memory lane with Coach Dave McGinnis and Rhett Bryant every week. Looking forward to doing that coming up at 7:20. Devlin DeFrancesco, an INDYCAR driver who will be here in Nashville for the Music City Grand Prix coming up in just over a month. Can't believe it's that close
Yeah.
No,
already.
it's real
Yep.
close.
When Music City GP returns. Looking forward to that. Bryant McFadden always brings it. He'll do that with us at 8:20. And the RKW Draft 2.0, a great topic this morning that will inflict pain on many people, which is ideal on this radio show at all times. Coming up, though, Joshua Perry, we revisit our conversation with him right here on RKW. Thursday morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will is powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. RIP to one and only Mac Miller.
Mac.
Pittsburgh's own.
Yeah. Park.
Somebody tweeted at us yesterday, by the way, that it was Ramon Foster days until Steelers football. And then they deleted it. I think that's actually today.
Is it today?
I think so.
73
It's Ramon
days.
Foster days until NFL football on the first NFL Sunday.
There we go.
Where you will, for the first time, have 7 hours of commercial-free football starting now. Name, I don't know how many words that is, but name words that just like, if you were asleep this morning and just kind of like sleepwalking,
Yeah.
now you're awake.
There you are.
We get to our conversation with Joshua Perry of Bally Sports right now here on the show, discussing NIL, discussing the SEC. Really good conversation in the world of college football with our guy, Joshua Perry. We are going through this memo sent by the NCAA to NIL and to member schools about, hey, don't follow state laws, just follow our rules. What's your reaction to just this game of chicken that's going on right now between state governments and the NCAA?
I mean, it's cute, right? I mean, good for the NCAA sending out their little statement. Are they actually going to enforce anything? And will anybody listen? Like, I think the hard part about this is, like some of the other sports, if you're basketball, you probably have to listen because they'll come down hard with sanctions. And we know that whole deal. But, I mean, for football, none of the rules really matter. I mean, this national championship is not sanctioned by the NCAA, right? So people do whatever they want to do. You send out as many memos as you want to. There was a way, in my mind, that you could get ahead of this. I still think that national legislation is the necessary part of NIL if you really want to get it under control. Here's the other thing that I think we're learning, though, after this experiment is there are a lot of kids that are concerned with NIL money, and they should be because you've got marketable brands that are coming into collegiate sports. I've also started to realize that schools are not throwing out nearly as much money as people think. And some of the reports that come out are misleading, both with the number or how the money's paid out. Typically you hear, oh, this kid got, $2 million. Yeah, it's $2 million. It's over 4 years. If he hits the portal, you don't know what's going to happen. We see a lot of that going on. And a lot of kids aren't making their decisions solely based on NIL. And you can look at previous recruiting rankings before NIL was a thing and then compare it to what's going on right now. Like, the top teams are still recruiting really well. Georgia's recruiting well. Yep. Michigan's recruiting well. Alabama's recruiting well. LSU, Ohio State, Penn State, all the schools that have been good are recruiting well. And it's not because they're giving more money than other schools to kids. It's because kids know if they go there, they got a better shot at making the real money, which is the NFL. It's wild. I feel like there are a lot of adults that were in the room that decided that they didn't want to be adults when this thing first started. Now they got a mess they're trying to clean up.
So, Joshua, we are in an era where in the NBA draft last week, you have a ton of G League representation, and you've got guys that are circumventing college basketball to then go the semi-pro, so to speak, route and get drafted that highly. Do you see a scenario where essentially the SEC and the Big Ten become almost a G League for the NFL and kind of form their own union and have just kind of an NFL development league in the near future?
Well, I think that there are a lot of reasons why people would want to keep a very similar structure to what we have. Football is the money maker. And so there are going to be a lot of people with power that say that they still need to find ways to stay in control of that money. For basketball, certainly some schools make a lot of money off of it. Largely, there are a lot of schools sitting around saying, as long as we got football, we're good. So you see kids doing G League and you see overtime elite and some of these other things popping up. I do see a world where you start to see college football splinter a little bit, and we're seeing that already with what the SEC and Big Ten have done with expansion. Mm-hmm. We see it already with the way that the TV networks have been involved in those conferences and ensuring that they can continue to have the financial capital to be successful. But ultimately, I see a very similar structure to what we have just in terms of, football players will continue to be student athletes. And quite frankly, if I am a college football player, I do not want to be an employee. I do not want to be represented by a union. I don't want those things. And here's the reason why. Is when you become employable, and a lot of guys find this out when they get to the NFL, you get fired too, right? It's all good, and you got somebody collectively bargaining, and you feel like you've got protections, and there's certainly things that exist there At the same time, they'll fire you. They say, hey, man, you're not playing well enough. We're going to get you up out of here. And I don't think that is a reality that a lot of young people want to face. Like, at the end of the day, you're on scholarship. A lot of schools are out of the business of taking people's scholarships away. They'll tell you should go somewhere else, but they're not just going to take your scholarship. So you get housing, you get food, you get an education, and you have the opportunity to earn on top of that. I don't want student athletes to start to think that they should pull their card and say, hey, it's time to become employees so we can formally unionize. Because the flip side of that, man, boy, the real world hits you, man. It's a little bit different than when you're sitting there on scholarship.
We've been talking a lot about the transfer portal, Joshua, recently, just whether it be in baseball, because that was really the theme here with the College World Series, but even, just with football, it's happening with basketball. And you even talk to coaches and they're just saying, like, this is really changing the sport. In your eyes, like, will it change? Will it get regular, even out as we look forward?
Yes, and I think there's going to be a lot of movement still. But I think what people are starting to realize, athletes are starting to realize, some guys go in that portal and they don't come out.
Right.
And that is a tough reality. And so I think that there are going to be people that start to really weigh what the situation is. What the hardest realization for some guys is that you get on campus and it's like, dang, maybe I really wasn't supposed to be here and I'm not going to play as much as I thought. But that doesn't mean that you're going to be desirable elsewhere. And so you have to be careful about jumping in the portal. I think it's been really good. You mentioned some of the people that have benefited and saw it in the College World Series. As you mentioned, I know LSU with their women's basketball team. Angel Reese was a transfer in, I believe, from Maryland,
Yep.
And they're going to be able probably to run it back this year because they're getting Haley Van Lith out of the portal, who is a phenomenal player from Louisville. We've seen it in college football numerous times. There's a benefit to it. I think that, again, there are administrators and coaches that are going to have to adapt. Like, yeah, you got to re-recruit your roster. I'm sorry, you can't just be out here saying we got them and now we can forget about them. Like, you have to actually be personable with your roster. It stinks. It's a little bit extra work. The portal is tough, and I'm glad that they put the window in there because I didn't know how you were going to manage a roster if guys could just jump in and out whenever. Those are the things that you can do, but ultimately there should be a level of freedom that student athletes have. The flip side of that is, if you're a student athlete, you got to know when you want to exercise some of your freedoms.
Absolutely. I agree with you on that. Let's take you down south here, Joshua, because you were technically born in Nashville, so it's not really out of your realm. What do you feel like coming into this season in the SEC is the biggest storyline like you're looking forward to?
Well, the SEC, I feel like, is always full of storylines, which I certainly enjoy. At the top of the conference, again, you're looking at Georgia. Are we looking at a three-peat? Is that something that's possible? Do they stub their toe along the way? It's really hard to maintain that level of success. And Kirby obviously learned from one of the best in Nick Saban. Mm-hmm. So if there's a guy who could do it, it might be him. But it's very difficult, and they've had roster turnover with some big positions there, specifically defensively. But they seem like they always reload. They got a quarterback that's going to be new, but in the spring game, I think all their quarterbacks look really good.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be a good football team. Alabama, what's their bounce back going to look like? And it's wild saying bounce back. It wasn't like it was a bad football team, won 10 games in the regular season, but that's not the Nick Saban standard. They're in Tennessee. I'm genuinely curious what that team looks like.
Sure.
And, Hendon Hooker gets hurt at the end of the year. I really think that took a lot of the momentum out of what they were doing. Because it was a great football team. Are they going to be able to capitalize off of what they did a year ago? And then I'm looking at a program like a South Carolina, who had a couple of big wins toward the end of the season. Are they a team that's going to make a little bit more noise? And for them, if they can put together another solid season, take the next step, could they have now some in-state recruiting or regional recruiting that increases over a team like Clemson to maybe where they can get a couple of blue-chip kids? I'm really intrigued. And then on the other side, and I mentioned LSU, I think they're going to be good. Like, what does A&M do? Like, A&M made some changes with their offensive staff. Are they actually going to be for real, or are those all those recruits that they had and a lot of them left, and all that just a nice little story that they had? And Jimbo called a press conference to yell at Nick Saban for no reason. Like, I'm curious to see what happens there too.
Josh, man, it's interesting. We're speaking about the business of ball, specifically football in general, man. And you mentioned something as far as like you don't want to see the athletes be employees, and that's very real because then we got to start talking about salary caps and the same thing that the NFL does, like position-specific pay. If a guy's a 5-star guy coming out, but let's just say if you treat this thing like the same NFL model, what if he's a 5-star running back? There's going to be a lot of upset parents and kids that get slighted because, look, we just don't pay for running backs. Or is the running back more important in college football than it is in NFL?
I think the game's parallel, but I think college football still has that emphasis on, we have to run the football in order to be successful. I look at Michigan as the example of that for the last couple of years and what they've become as a national power. But even for them, like, part of their NIL and their big push last year was to keep Blake Corum on the roster for this upcoming season, right? And so I think there is some value, but it's gonna look very similar if that would be the case, where your quarterbacks are going to get paid a ton of money and premium pass rushers are going to be guys that people want, and you got to get that premium offensive tackle, and you're going to spend money big on a cornerback 1, a wide receiver 1, and then you start looking at safety. Is that a position that people don't value? In the NFL, they certainly don't. I think it would be similar in college. Linebacker, if you're an off-the-ball backer, how much money are you really going to get, right? And so it does kind of change the calculus of how things go. I think it's paralleled a little bit in NIL, but 5-star guys are the ones that are getting the bag if there's anybody out there getting it. It would be a very unique situation to see this turn. And it's an industry already, but to see it formalized with, employee status for student athletes, it just feels like the unintended consequences, everything we talked about with the portal and NIL to begin with. You want to talk about some unintended consequences that come with that. It would be wild. It'd be a mess to me.
It would, and I guess it's this though too, because we're already seeing guys get Lamborghinis, like AMG, Mercedes, and just Range Rovers. Like we're seeing a lot being dished out right with this NIL. I gotta ask you, as a former Power 5 athlete, like, what is too much? And what do you do if it is too much? Do you put this money in a trust and say, you know what? You're getting this and you're being paid this. Do we put this money in a trust that you get it at 27 instead of you getting it at 25? Because here's the other thing of the NIL stuff, too, and I've heard this said. A lot of parents bank on this, too, to say, hey, son, daughter, we need this house paid off. Like, there's a lot that kind of goes into this conversation of, like, if I'm owed $100,000 a year or $500,000 a year, do we give that up front? Like, is that too much? What is too much, and how do you balance it?
It's a great question, right? Because I saw an Instagram post from Kyle McCord, who hasn't even been named starting quarterback at Ohio State. He's driving around the AMG Mercedes that you were just talking about. I'm grown. I make really good money. I have a paid-off used BMW with 125,000 miles on it that I like driving, right? Like, these cats are driving nicer cars than me, and I'm a successful professional, and it's no hate, but you have to think about being a young person and the mental aspect of that. And there have been numerous studies done about the psychology of money and how much mental pressure is put on people because of money. And I think young people are experiencing that. And you mentioned now where you have some relatives and you feel like you have to take care of it. And usually that was a problem for when you got in the pros. And if you have watched a 30 for 30 broke, a lot of the guys talked about, I didn't go broke because I was spending money on cars and clothes. I went broke because I was trying to pay everybody's bills. Yeah. We need to help young people. And so part of NIL needs to be financial education. There need to be trusted advisors that these young people can go to. I work with an advisor both for my finances and my taxes because this is not something I can do by myself, and I want to make sure I have a plan for the future. I said if I was ever going to pivot out of media, I would start a financial consulting services business for student athletes and OnlyFans models, because these are people that are capitalizing on a moment, but this is not something that you get to do forever. No. And at some point, you would like to look up, and instead of saying, well, I drove a nice car when I was in my 20s, you could be able to drive a nice car for forever, right? And so there needs to, and it's part of it is on the people. Like young people, you have to do the right thing. And I know it puts a lot of pressure, but when you ask for a ton of money, these are some of the things that you get along with it. There have to be safeguards in place to make sure that they can handle themselves financially.
I just got to ask real quick. Do you cap it to where it's always below what an NFL rookie is making?
No, I mean, if the market's the market, right? Like,
okay.
if you're that marketable, if somebody feels like they need to pay you that much money, it is what it is. Like, that just the other side about that is, what are you doing to your roster? Because I do know that the third offensive guard on that roster is probably not making very much money in comparison to the starting quarterback. And now you got to handle that within the locker room. At least when you come in as a rookie, everything's slated. Everybody knows what everybody's making. You get the performance bonus at the end of the year if you do play better than what your draft slot was. Like, you know, there's all the things in place to try to make it as simple as possible. And I just feel like it'd be a Wild West in college football.
Oh, Ramon is pressed on talking about offensive guards here. He is hurt, Joshua.
We were so good.
His face, he's got chopsticks, Josh. You're glad you're not here.
We were good, Josh. You could have said the third center. The third guard is actually the first backup, man. We were so good.
You know what I could have. You know what I could have said. Is the fourth inside linebacker is what I really should have said, right?
There we go.
And that's on me. I won't do that to you again, Ramon.
We do a little too much O-line advocacy on this show, Joshua. Thank you for keeping this man humble. There he is, Joshua Perry with us, talking financial literacy for recruits and fourth-string offensive linemen.
Yeah. Linebackers, too. You need to include them, man.
You're still pressed.
The third-string guard is closer to playing than the fourth-string linebacker.
That's only on the Titans when all of them get hurt.
Well, then they played a lot the last 2 years.
Let me know if you can find the lie in the studio somewhere in our break. 615-737-1045, the number. Coming up, the historic event that took place in Major League Baseball while you were asleep last night. The Oakland A's might be a AAA team, but they're the first Major League Baseball team to not have a base runner in 27 tries in over a decade. We give you the history of that coming up next on Ramon, Kalen, Will.
It's Ramon Foster for Zen Sports, and Zen Sports is a new sports book in Tennessee. Zen Sports brand is focused on making sports betting better today and always, and they do it in so many ways, too. Simply put, the money. Cash back rewards, okay? The welcome bonus. You can earn 5% back on your bets for your first 15 days of betting on Zen Sports. The cash reward programs, too. I told you, there's plenty of cash that's coming back to you. You can earn up 3% of your betting volume back as a cash deposit to your account every single month. This happened every month, as I just told you, on the first of every month. So, hey, that's like Saturday if you already signed up for it. Our referral rewards program. Earn 3% of your referral betting volume back as rewards for the first 6 months of betting on Zen Sports as a cash deposit right back to your account. It's routine. It's coming right back to you. And the best part is, it's easy to use. You can search and sort bets easily. Set your favorite team. Easiest experience possible when making or building parlays, too. And you can withdraw within 24 hours or deposit funds instantly. And even 24/7 customer support anytime you need them. Easy to track rewards and no gimmicky promotional bets that look too good to be true, but rarely are. You know how they'll try to rope you in, and when they got you, they got you. Not with Zen Sports. This is the best sporting book in Tennessee, so stop settling for Vegas rewards when they're right here in Tennessee. And if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 years and older and in Tennessee to bet.
Ramon, Kayla, and Will is powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors here on 104.5 The Zone, where we only have superstars. And last night, Domingo Germán, the first pitcher born in the Dominican Republic to ever pitch a perfect game, and was the first player in MLB history to reach that feat after allowing 10-plus runs in his previous start, was the superstar in the sports world yesterday. Joins Don Larson, David Wells, and David Cohn as Yankees pitchers to achieve the milestone. And the first perfect game we've had in Major League Baseball since King Felix back in August of 2012.
Go off, King.
Go
Crazy.
off, man. Yeah, that's
Mariners.
big right there.
Yeah, well, he did it what? I guess you do good things when you go to Oakland.
That's right.
Ba-dum-boom.
Even got a place for the possums.
And in the best ballpark to throw a perfect game also, because that's the biggest pitcher's park in Major League Baseball.
Jeez.
Absolutely.
But the other part of that, too, is that in a way it's difficult to not allow hits because it is so big. There is so much ground to cover.
That's true.
As
That's
well.
a good point.
The foul territory is so big, you pop out in foul ground, it's not going to go in the third row. It's just going to go, 20 feet away from the dugout.
Yeah.
You got plenty of room to make catches in that foul territory. And
Sure.
it's the walls are so far back, but there is a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah.
The play made by his first baseman was phenomenal, though.
There's always
Oh, yeah.
one crazy defensive play in every perfect game.
That's what I'm saying. I'll give him all the credit, but his defense was solid, even by shortstop to end the game. I thought
I
that was
agree.
good. That one came down the first baseline was hot.
That would have been Anthony Rizzo, I would imagine.
Yeah, it will. Not any Joe Blow is making that play. That was hot right there. Good for him, man.
If I told you my brother has seen a perfect game in person,
In person.
No.
a Major League Baseball
Where's
one.
that?
Chicago White Sox, Mark Burley,
Oh,
2009.
I remember that. Yep.
Yeah, he was at that one. Because that one, there was a crazy catch in center field by, I don't remember. Hold on. I've got it pulled
Oh,
up
good.
now.
We got time, baby.
Dwayne Wise. How could I forget Dwayne Wise? Dwayne Wise made a
Wise.
crazy catch in center field to rob a home run and keep it a perfect game on that one. There's always, the law of averages says that there's always a crazy catch anytime there's a no-hitter or a perfect game.
Have you also seen the history of the ones that throw as a perfect game no-hitters?
In terms of
that's
what
the same
happens
thing.
next.
They usually tank thereafter. It's rare that one continues on to have a phenomenal career after that. I forget,
So not even just a season. You're talking about
it's a few guys that's
Their
done
next
it.
start.
No, their careers
Oh.
are usually done what has historically shown to be done. There's 5 guys I think that's done it, and those 5 guys were either out of the league within a year or two, and
Huh.
yeah,
Philip Umber was the one who was really random
yeah,
for the White Sox back in 2012.
yeah. It was really
2012, though, and so this is the bet I'm going to make. And I don't know if any sports book offers this. Maybe I can peruse. Someone else is going to do it this year.
Somebody else
This
is.
is always the way baseball works. When a record is broken that's taken 10 years to break, then someone just does it immediately thereafter. That's what happened in 2012. Nobody had done it in 2 seasons since Roy Halladay. May he rest in peace.
Yeah.
And 3 guys did it in 2012 because that was when Matt Cain did it
Right.
for San Francisco. Felix did it in August. So you had Philip Umber in April, Matt Cain in June, and Felix Hernandez in August.
Yeah.
I want to somebody give me the odds of somebody else to throw a perfect game this season.
That kind of takes away from it a little for me, just because I'm like, oh, great. Okay, now we got 2 other guys.
It does.
I don't know. 1 or 2, I get it, but it's like, man, okay, cool. It just doesn't make it as exciting.
When somebody else doubles back on you,
That many times.
It's a short list, though, still.
It is.
Yeah.
Very short list.
If you're the last batter on that 27th out, do you just hose it?
Well,
just let it roll?
If you really want to be a villain, you can try to bunt down the line.
Right.
But that's very frowned upon.
Yeah, so you're
blacklisted.
Those
That's
are
what
like
I was just
unwritten
wondering.
rules.
Are there unwritten rules?
Yeah.
If it's
Big time.
ninth inning, hey guys,
Gotta swing.
let it go. Okay.
There's definitely
You have to
unwritten
try.
rules in baseball.
Okay, all right, for sure. I just want to make sure
sure.
because that doesn't. It's so rare.
It's a stupid one, but it is one.
but it is one. Okay,
Yeah.
for sure.
Who threw the first perfect game of all time? RKW trivia.
Who threw the first one?
May 5th, 1904.
Oh,
No, you've heard of him. For sure.
Oh.
I was gonna say something silly.
What were you going to
Go
say?
for it. Tim McGraw?
Lou Gehrig.
Well, wasn't him.
Wasn't him?
Cy Young?
Robert Walsh, ladies and gentlemen.
Look at
Cy
the
Young.
big brain on
Come on,
Bert.
Kane.
In a game between the Boston Americans and the Philadelphia Athletics on May 5th, 1904.
The who and who?
In front of 10,267 people. It took an hour and 25 minutes.
Whoa.
When 37-year-old
Here for
Red
that.
Sox pitcher Cy Young, Boston Americans pitcher Cy Young.
I'm going to ask
Yeah.
9 innings?
Yeah.
That quick?
Mhm.
Jeez.
And you wonder
Hour
why
25.
the award is named after him.
Oh,
That's correct.
see.
That's the only reason I guessed that. I did not know that.
That's
I
good,
just-
though.
Yeah, when I said that you've heard of him, that was kind
Sometimes
of...
it's basic.
I also found your bet. No book that I can find offers that currently,
Okay.
but 3 years ago they did, and it was plus 15 grand.
Ooh.
$100 to win 15 grand.
Not bad.
Dude, I might.
Golly.
So they don't have it right now?
Nah, it was on Bet Online is the last place I can find that offered.
I wonder if somebody will now.
They probably
Right?
got
After
cashed,
there is
and
one.
that's why
I
they
know.
didn't offer it
That's
anymore.
so true. They're like, nope.
Interesting. But the no-hitter was kind of going out of style a little bit. I feel like it's gotten harder now to do no-hitters because they juiced the baseball in 2020, 2021, and now it's kind of back to normal.
Yeah.
Or 2019 was the year they juiced the baseball. But without the shift, a lot harder to throw a no-hitter now
It is.
because weak ground balls will find the grass more often than they used to.
Easily.
So, perfect game in this era, much more impressive than it would have been even last year with no shift.
Yeah.
And the way hitters are just at an advantage right
Yeah,
now,
they are.
it's impressive by Domingo Germán. You know how much I hate giving the Yankees credit for anything. But
Have all major sports also gone to the offense recently? Baseball has. Basketball has.
Yeah.
NFL has.
that's correct.
I thought so.
People
Okay.
want entertainment.
Again, when you look at sports as just television inventory for networks to make money off of, everything makes a lot more sense.
That's very true, Brody.
Yep. Coming up next, a portal proposal from an NCAA Division I council proposing big changes to the transfer portal windows that could implement big changes on when and how many opportunities that players have to transfer. Maybe a little bit of clarity to a chaotic place in college sports. As we continue here in Ramon, Kale, and Will.
7:02. Good morning from the Zone Studios. I'm Robert Walsh. Report from the NFL yesterday, a handful of NFL players, including Colts cornerback and kick returner Isaiah Rodgers, are expected to receive season-long suspensions this week for allegedly gambling. And some of the suspensions they've handed out over the last year, the players that have been suspended for at least 1 year for bets on the NFL, that's Calvin Ridley, C.J. Moore, Quintez Cephas, and Shaka Toney. And the players that have been suspended 6 games, those are for non-NFL bets, but still done in an NFL facility. That's Jamison Williams and Stanley Berryhill. The first round of the NHL draft has concluded, and the Preds walk away with 2 new players. As at number 15, they select Matthew Wood, a 17-year-old, which was the youngest in D1. In 35 games, he scored 11 goals, 34 points. And at 24, the Preds select defenseman Tanner Molendijk. The Chicago Bulls are going to head start on free agency by signing center Nikola Vucevic after nearing a 30-year, $60 million contract extension. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Seven a.m. in America's Music City. Welcome to your Thursday morning, your Friday Junior on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. It's powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. And coming up in 15 minutes, our weekly chat with the one and only Coach Dave McGinnis. 15 years since the Tennessee Titans were the 1 seed in the AFC, a 13-3 2008 team that we remember with their linebackers coach, who coached some outstanding players 15 years ago, and even more recently than that. And now he's Titans Radio's head coach. Coach Mack coming up with us at 7:20 this morning. 615-737-1045 is our number. With Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, and Robert Walsh, I'm Will Bowling. And yesterday, a new story comes out about a transfer portal proposal to shift the amount of days that players can transfer. NCAA Division I Council proposed changes to the portal period that would cut the window from 60 days down to 30.
Something's got to be done.
Okay.
Yeah, something's got to be done. It's too leisurely at times, I think. And this is the thing. So if you know you got your deal set up, go ahead and sign it and go somewhere else when it comes down to you hopping in the portal.
Yep.
I ain't against the portal at all. I realize certain situations are better at other places, but it is a whole lot of time and waiting, and coaches and players and high school recruits that got to depend on you to make a decision quick. There's got to be some structure to this in all things, and that's just kind of where I sit. I'm with that. Give me some structure about this.
Yeah, I think we talked about it a little bit with Joshua. You know, do you see this kind of evening out in the long run, right? Like,
right.
I'm not saying put a ton of rules in place, but just put a few kind of barriers there so that it's not as Wild West-like. It's going to take maybe another couple years to do that, but I think there's ways of doing it without feeling like you're handcuffing people.
Yes.
Right? Or handcuffing these student athletes to be like, this is how it is, and there's no, like, we don't want to go backwards at all.
Right, absolutely. I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, right now a total of 2,224 Division I football players entered the portal in the winter. 1,373 entered in the spring.
What?
Yep. So the council says in its release they have data from this past year that indicates most student athletes entered the portal at the beginning of that window. Is there value in having a winter and spring window?
Is there value? I think it's good to have the option. I'm like with Kayla. I think it's just good to have the option. The value, I think, is null and void, because if they get in the portal and they don't get out the portal, then that tells you your real value. I like the idea that it's available, but just because it's available don't mean you use it. Like, one thing, like a coach can get fired by the end of the year. Something happened, like Bob Huggins, right? get fired going into the end of the school year or right after school year. Like, so there's opportunity from there. And, who capitalized on that? Kentucky did. They ended up getting a transfer player out of their portal. That type of stuff, right? And I know most coaches don't get fired in the offseason like that. But I don't think there's anything wrong with having 2 sessions. It's just the structure.
I feel like that's a great point. But that is the thing where you got to have a little bit of education as a student athlete.
Yeah.
Like, just because it's there, just because this opportunity's there, doesn't mean you just need to go.
Right.
Like, do it if you really feel like there has been a coaching change or if just something hasn't progressed the way you wanted it to with the coaches you are with. Maybe they added somebody late and you're like, okay, this isn't going to happen for me.
Yeah.
So, I think you still need to have the 2.
Well, basketball's different, though. They have different windows than football.
Yes.
So football has a 45-day window that opens the day after the college football playoff teams are announced. It is open for 45 days. Mm-hmm. Another transfer window is open in the spring from April 15th to April 30th, which is after spring practices. So essentially you have the NCAA saying when coaching change season begins, once the college football playoff teams are announced and bowl season starts, then you can transfer once your coach is possibly leaving in that span. And then again in the spring, after spring practice, if you realize, hey, I came here thinking I was the number 1 wide receiver, turns out I'm number 7. Or the way Lynn J. Dixon was at Tennessee last year, where he came in when the Vols had an injury in spring practice, comes in and then realizes, oh, I'm not going to beat these freshmen for playing time. Let me go somewhere else where I can play.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. It's just the wild, wild west, Will. Like, options are good, but not everybody needs them sometimes. Adversity has always been a part of sports.
I don't know if cutting the amount of time you can transfer is going to make it less chaotic, though. Just feels like you're going to have more of a chaotic amount of time. Like, I don't think the amount of time really moves the needle at all.
Who do you think it affects more than if they're shrinking time, the players or the coaches and staff? I think that's the biggest conversation is
Probably the players. But probably the coaches because they have less time to plan
who's getting in
who
and out.
to replace with.
Yeah. I wonder who lobbied for this is just where I'm at on it. I feel like this is a coaching thing to where a guy gets in the portal last minute and he's been planning on, he's been working out with the team and doing stuff like that. It really just makes them make even more adult decisions as athletes, though, too.
It does. But again, I'm going to harp on it. And I wish if I wasn't doing this job because I just had the lover of broadcast journalism, radio, sports, anything, I would maybe consider working at a university and trying to help these kids make sure they just know, like, okay, these are the things that are out there.
Yeah.
This is the repercussions.
Yep.
Sometimes this is the bonus of doing something. That would be really cool to do just because being around sports for that long in youth, I think they need to continue to grow that part of it too, where you're going to have a guidance person at every university.
Yeah, they have to.
With either each sport or just one that runs a majority of it.
Yeah, they have to. I'm sure the coaching staff and just support staffs are growing, and they have to have those type of people in place. Heck, we were hiring people to watch our social media in the NFL.
Were you really?
Heck, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We went through like two or three ladies that was doing that stuff. We had a lady from LSU. We had somebody else from like Penn State. Like,
they just go through and say, hey, if this isn't good, we're taking it down.
Hey, let's watch that. Let's remove that tweet. Yeah, that's a real thing.
That happened to me once.
Did it?
When I was at UT.
Oh,
interesting.
Wow. The SID DM'd me and said, hey, I need you to delete that last tweet, please.
Oh, wow.
Because I was criticizing Holly Warlick.
Oh, man.
Lady Vols.
Yeah.
So that was when I was starting as like a student, like journalist.
Yeah.
And I tweeted, at the time, it was my freshman year, and Lady Vols program wasn't doing so well. And I was like, well, it seems like Holly Warlick is kind of the basketball equivalent of Derek Dooley for this program.
Oh.
And the SID DM'd me and was like, hey, we need you to take that down. You can't be talking bad about other programs. And I was like, well, I kind of covered athletics now, so like, okay, I don't know where that line is, but okay. So I was like covering Tennessee, but I was also like a part of it. It was kind of weird. And then but I had a buddy say very disparaging things about the Tennessee kicker at the time. Yeah. When he missed a field goal to beat Florida. And he never got any DMs.
He never got.
No.
Who's never cussed out a kicker on social media?
Right. I mean, come on.
Right. Laces out. Come on.
Exactly.
I have a restraining order against Billy Cundiff. I'm not allowed to be
Exactly, right?
two states away from him at all times.
Speaking of NFL football, it is Ramon Foster days until the first NFL Sunday.
Yeah.
We are 73 days away.
Let's go.
There we go, baby.
We've tweeted out a flattering picture of you spiking a football, like if you were a skill position player.
Here.
Your moment to shine.
Yeah.
Ramon can't
I
retweet
should
it,
have
though.
picked a less complimentary picture, but that's okay.
Wow,
Yeah, that's fair.
look at that big body there.
See those biceps right there?
Big body Benz over there.
You see
Look
those
at
guns
that.
over there?
Talking about Ben Roethlisberger
So-
or Ramon Foster?
Yes.
Who's the Baltimore Ravens player just staring you down?
C.J. Mosley.
Mosley. He's like, yo,
Bammer.
bro, what the?
Just a guy that went to a school that didn't beat Ramon Foster's alma mater this
Right.
past season.
This is what I'm
I'm
saying.
not a big
Bama.
fan of him either, man. Left the bag, went to New York, $20 million
That's
a
right.
year.
Right?
Yeah.
That's right.
I will say he's a cool dude.
Is
though.
he?
Yeah,
Okay.
he's a cool
I was
dude.
going to ask you what he's like.
Yeah.
Because I
You said
can't
I'm
tell his
giving that.
facial expression. I just see
Oh.
the side of his head, and his body language was like, oh, I guess.
Oh, it was hate, Kayla.
Was it hate? Okay.
And we're in white jerseys. We're in Baltimore, too.
This is a great picture. If you are on
it's
Twitter,
fantastic.
please go and check it out.
73 days until week 1 of NFL Sunday.
Wait, it's Ron's birthday?
That's Ron's
No, we were talking
birthday
about that
today.
earlier.
Yeah, we said that earlier.
Y'all,
Happy
I
birthday
didn't
to
get
Ron
any
Slay.
sleep last
Yeah.
night, so my
I,
apologies.
I was going to wait until I saw him appear in the chat.
Yeah.
But we can wish him happy birthday more
Happy
than once.
born day, Ron Slay. Y'all gonna flood this timeline, man. Y'all must have been losing that game right there, Bert. That's crazy.
Something like that.
How do you? I imagine you don't have the Sean McVay photographic memory of every play you ever played in.
No, not
But
like that.
How much do you remember every game? Like if I showed you a picture of a game and
Mm-hmm.
told you what year, how quickly could you tell me the score?
Probably not that quick.
Really?
My existence in football
tried.
was always next.
Was
I tell
it?
people all the time, like I don't
Grinder.
dwell.
Football guy.
Okay, that's good.
And
That's
I
good.
be thinking to myself, like, is it memory? Like, no, I just go. And
Yeah.
that's something where I'll tell you guys at times, like I have to, like, we all have to at times
Yeah.
sit down and just be present. Like I wasn't ever present in the moment. I feel like.
Sometimes that
But-
score maybe do it.
Well,
Yeah, it might be
in your
doing,
case,
for-
though, that's probably what made you successful.
I know.
Because in the NFL, you got a bad moment. If you sit and dwell on that,
Yeah.
like you're gone. And especially in your case where you had to make the team, you had
Yeah.
to prove yourself year after year for a minute.
And it's that too. My
You know?
career was full of worry.
Yeah.
Even though I wasn't like on the chopping block every year, like
Still.
I was full of worry. So I was always in survival mode.
Yeah.
So not like McVay.
2007, Tennessee, Kentucky.
Tennessee, Kentucky, smacked them. That was an overtime game, lead us to the SEC championship.
score?
52-54 or
I think you're right,
52-49.
actually. It
What,
wasn't
see?
52
It's within 2
49.
points because we had to go for 2 points.
Yeah, you did. Well, yeah, because they didn't get it because
Yeah.
Andre Woodson got tackled by Paris Harrelson, I believe.
P. Rarris.
Turk McBride. Turk McBride.
Turk
Turk
McBride.
That's who it was.
You were close. 52-50.
52-50. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Not
I was
bad,
at that
Moan.
game.
Yeah, I got it.
Were you,
hands are
were
still
you in
falling out.
a baby
No,
blanket?
I wasn't.
Okay.
2007. Give me some credit.
What year? You were 98?
97.
97. Okay. All right.
That's crazy.
I was 1 when Tennessee won the national championship.
Okay, so you are in the 2000s. Okay.
I'm a 90s kid.
Like you
He's still
remember growing up
technically 90s.
in the era I played football.
Yeah,
You
no, I remember
that.
going
Yeah.
to your game.
Yeah.
I remember you playing.
Yeah, that's
I
what
mean,
I'm
like
saying.
I remember watching Sunday Night Football and be like Ramon Foster, Tennessee, being like,
Yeah.
"Hey, go Vols!"
Yeah.
And here we are. Look at us.
Look at us.
Who'd have thought?
Who would have?
Not me.
Not me.
Coach Dave McGinnis joins us coming up next. He is always presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. We go down memory lane with Rhett Bryan and Coach Mack over these next couple of weeks until training camp. And today we focus on the 2008 Tennessee Titans, a team that went 13-3 and had some dudes on the defensive side of the football. Coach Dave McGinnis joins us coming up next on Ramon, Kayla, and Will.
It's Ramon and Kayla for Window Nation. And I'm telling you this, it's here. The heat, the humidity. I drove in today and I was like, it is hazy and it means it's going to be scorching today. The hot temps forcing your AC into overdrive, leading to sky-high energy bills. The solution? New windows from my friends, our friends, Kayla, at Window Nation. Save thousands a day with no money down, no payments, and pay no interest for 2 years plus. Window Nation will give you 2 free windows with every 2 you buy, so protect and increase the value of your home today by calling 866-90Nation or going online to windownation.com.
Yeah, and that's heat, it speeds us up too. Like, we just want to get through the day, but just take a time, do your research a little in terms of maybe you do need new windows. You don't know exactly what's happening. Well, maybe you can't shut them. That's probably an issue. You can, in, I guess, the wintertime, you maybe would have seen a little bit of a air coming through. That's probably
Drafty.
because they're not very good windows. And so you can just trust us, or you can trust the 10,000 online positive reviews. Look, they have comprehensive lifetime warranties on the entire window, including the glass. Ramon just told you about the incredible deal right now, 000 for 2 years. Get in on it before it's too late. No money down, no payments, no interest for 2 years. You get those 2 windows for free if you buy 2. So go ahead, check out our friends at Window Nation. Call them at 866-90Nation or go to windownation.com.
Thursday morning, and this music means it is time to talk to Titans Radio's head coach on the road, Kayla and Will. We are powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors, and every time you hear Coach Dave McGinnis on 104.5 The Zone, it is presented by our very good friends at Farm Bureau Health Plans. For over 75 years, Tennesseans have been relying on Farm Bureau Health Plans for their health care coverage. Why? Better rates, better coverage, and better service. As we go down memory lane this morning with the one and only Coach Dave McGinnis here on the show. Coach Mack, how we doing this morning?
Well, good morning, Ramon, Kayla. Good morning, guys.
Morning,
Morning,
Mac.
Coach.
Morning, Coach.
So, Coach Mack, we started doing this yesterday with our Wednesday segments with Rhett of
Right.
the 25-year history of the Tennessee Titans, going through some outstanding individual performances, but also some of the outstanding teams. And it is crazy to me that it has been 15 years since that 13-3 season with Kerry Collins, CJ 2K, a prime Keith Bullock, and Albert Hainsworth, that 2018 that I'm excited to dive into with you here today.
Yeah, that was a really good football team. And, it came with, of course, the Titans had been on a great run, prior to that, and it culminated in the Super Bowl. But like anything else, look, this league is cyclical, regardless of when you were involved in it. And I talk about cycles of being able to acquire players. Well, once they won the Super Bowl, and then Floyd and Jeff Fisher tried to keep that team together as long as they could, extended salaries and everything that happens with that. And then you lose some to attrition because people want your players anyway. Then once the salary cap came in and hit the team in 2004, when I was hired here in 2004, Floyd and Jeff both told me, look, we're going to have to reconstruct this thing a little bit. We've got salary cap issues here. And I said, I've been through it already at Arizona. I understand. So let's go. So 4 and 5 were a struggle. 6 and 7, we started to bring it back. Went 8 and 8 and went 10 and 6 and went to the playoffs. But the 2008, after we'd acquired, again, cleared a cap, and we had been able to sign some free agents, really, really good players. I mean, it kind of culminated. We had a really good staff, but the players we had, I mean, if you just look at the Pro Bowlers we had on that team, of course, Kerry Collins had a tremendous year.
Mm-hmm.
He was the Pro Bowl quarterback. You've already mentioned CJ 2K, but both are offensive tackles. Left tackle Mike Roos, and then the right tackle Big Country Dave Stewart were Pro Bowlers and All-Pro players. Okay, so that's legit. And then Kevin Mawai, center, was an All-Pro player. I think we had 8 Pro Bowl players on that team. I know Kerry was, CJ 2K, Roos was, Chris Hope, who we'd signed as a free agent as a strong safety. 3 guys in our secondary made the Pro Bowl. Chris Hope and Cortland Finnegan as a safety, and then as a corner, and then Michael Griffin as a free safety. Then had Albert, had KB, had Mawai, but anytime you've got dudes like that, because you start looking at it, Michael Roos and Dave Stewart were both All-Pro on the All-Pro team, mm-hmm. Which that team is, and Mawai. So you got 3 offensive linemen that were there. You had Albert Hainsworth at Cortland. And look, we had dudes. You don't win without dudes. And we had finally built that thing up and had dudes, had extended KB in 2004 when KB got his money, which he deserved. And he was the guy that we kind of built the thing around, he and Albert Hainsworth. Then started bringing a lot of free agents in, drafted Cortland in the 7th round. He turned out to be a great player. But anyway, that team culminated we started off and we got on a run. And we were staying healthy. We stayed healthy through, and we were 10-0.
Yep.
We went 10-0, which is hard to do in this league. Then, as we went 10-0, we started experiencing some injuries. Then our first loss, the Jets came in here and beat us with Brett Favre at quarterback. That's when Favre was up there at the Jets. He came in here and beat us, and that made everybody really mad. But we were still 10-1. We were getting ready to run away with the division. And then the last 3 ball games, the 3 ball games we lost at the end of the year. Of course, the Jets was one of them. But sandwiched in between that, the last game against the Colts, I remember when we lost to them. We were trying to rest. We had some injured players, so we rested our players. We already had the division locked up, and we had the number 1 seed locked up in the AFC. But in between then, we beat the Steelers, and we beat them pretty good here. I mean, that was it. That was the whole stomp on the towel deal. And I mean, it was a really, really in your face ball game. That football team was really feeling good about themselves. And then something that broke all of our hearts. We get beat by Baltimore in the divisional game here after having the week off, 13-10.
Yep.
I mean, we crushed them, but it came down to turnovers. We turned the football over 3 times, 2 times inside the 10-yard line going in. With 2 fumbles, and that was it. They had a great defensive football team. We did too. It was a 13-10 slugfest, but that's when Keith Bullock destroyed all of the fencing going up into the locker room out of frustration, and I don't blame him. I was right behind him. That was a heartbreaker because that was a good football team, and we would have played Pittsburgh, in going into that next playoff game to be able to for the championship game to get to the Super Bowl, and we'd already beaten them pretty good one time. So that was a great season, and the playoffs were a huge heartbreak, which just goes to show nothing is guaranteed, but you can't win playoff games turning it over.
Great breakdown, Coach Mack. And what I remember watching this team growing up was Albert Haynesworth was a dude on that defensive line, of course. In the sack numbers, he had 8.5 sacks that season at the defensive tackle position, playing 14 games that season, which is just unbelievable. And Keith Bullock was just a dog of all dogs on that team. But the thing I don't remember as well, Coach Mack, is Lindale White having 15 rushing touchdowns that season. I mean, we always talk about CJ2K, what Chris Johnson did. I think one of the most underrated aspects of those Titans teams, Coach Mack, is just how good Lindale White was on some of those seasons when Chris Johnson was entering the league and before Chris Johnson even entered the league.
Oh, yeah, Lindale White was a really good back. He really was. Lindale White probably had some of the best feet. And Lindale White was a guy. Lindale had great contact balance. Great contact balance. It was hard. He had good vision. He had really sweet feet, especially up in tight quarters. I mean, he could slip and slide, but people bounced off of him. The dude was solid. He was thick. And he could run. If you remember the game that we played Kansas City when CJ2K, went off and jumped into the band and played the bongos and all that stuff. Well, I mean, Lindale White had a 50 or 60-yard touchdown run that game too. I mean, Lindale was a good football player, but he had an innate ability. I mean, he had some of the best vision and feet. I mean, look, it wasn't any surprise. You watched him at SC, but he was hard to knock off his feet. And he and CJ2K were a tremendous punch. And again, as I said, guys, we had some really good skill players. But at the same time, when you've got 3 of your offensive linemen that are all pro players, you got a chance. I mean, you could secure the edge. We had Kevin Mawai as a center. I mean, Cat Stevens was our tight end on that. Was one of the better blocking tight ends in the league at that time. I mean, there were dudes that surrounded dudes, and that's how you have a good team.
Mac, in that 2008 season, something unique happened, which rarely ever happens in this league like this, and hard decisions have to be made. You go from VY, Vince Young, to Kerry Collins. What was that decision like? And honestly, great coaching decision, it seemed like, in that year moving forward. What was it like? And explain why those hard decisions have to be made, Coach.
Well, VY got hurt in the Jacksonville game, okay? He got hurt in the Jacksonville game. Couldn't go back in. Right. Look, when we got Kerry Collins in here, I remember the year that we brought Kerry Collins in, we did not bring him in here until late during training camp. And we were in training camp that year at Austin Peay. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so, but Kerry was a veteran quarterback. And so when we brought Kerry in, it was a whole lot like when Ryan Tannehill came in here as an 88 game starter. And was playing behind Marcus Mariota. Kerry said, "Okay, fine, I'll come in there and do that." Kerry he ran the scout team. He was just the consummate pro. Kerry Collins was a consummate pro. But when that switch was made, and then Kerry came in, and he took his other opportunity, just like Ryan did. I mean, history has a tendency, guys, in this league, in all sports really, to kind of repeat itself when you get into cycles. But Kerry came in, took advantage of that. and then took it off and ran with it. And look, when you're winning 10 ball games in a row, you're not going to make many changes.
No doubt about it, Coach. And this is the thing, too, you mentioned. It's one thing to be good and have a great coaching staff, but y'all had a bunch of Jimmys and Joes, Coach Mack, that came together, man. This may be, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, if not other than the 99 team, one of the most memorable teams that you've seen here in Tennessee, Coach Mack?
Yes, those are the two teams. I mean, those are the two chances. Of course, the 99 team went to the Super Bowl. We all know how that thing came out. They were good enough. That 2008 team had a chance to win a ring too, just because of the way things had come together, and we had put the pieces together, player-wise and coaching staff-wise, on both sides of the football. And then it just good teams. You've been on good teams before. Yeah. I've been with good teams before. Once you start getting a feel for it, you can feel it coming. You can feel it start rolling. And, Keith Bullock and I will talk about that quite a bit. That, it broke everybody's heart. And it broke everybody's heart because it was Baltimore. Okay? So there's still feelings over that. As I say, people ask me, what has so far has been the most memorable game to me in the going on 8 years now that I came back to broadcast for this team. It's when the football team and we were broadcasting beat Baltimore in Baltimore, when they were the number one seed. I mean, that made me so happy. I wanted to jump out of the booth. Yeah. Just because, you get raw feelings in this league that you've got to be a grown up and be able to say that happens to everybody, but you still got raw feelings that are deep when you get scarred like that.
Coach, at what point, because you guys, like you said, start off 10-0, but at what point or what particular game did you guys feel like this was a group, like this group had something? You
could feel it. You could feel it during training camp.
Okay.
You really could. And plus, look, and I talk about Keith Bullock. Keith Bullock's going into the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame this year, and I can't wait for that. Very well deserved. But, when they started having to reconstruct the team, Keith Bullock was one of the guys that Floyd Reese, that we paid. We paid Keith. But he knew that, we were going to start losing some players. And so he was kind of the guy that had to hold up the ship a little bit before we were able to start, bringing guys in back around him again. And so he always, because, he had a burning desire in him, to get it back to that season when he wasn't here when they went to the Super Bowl. So he had a burning desire to be able to bring that team that he was intricately involved in back to the top. And so you could just feel it as we started training camp. And then, to win 3 games in a row is hard in this league. To win 10 games in a row, it's a wow. And so, and the team, we played some good football teams, and you felt it. But when things started clicking and just rolling your way game after game after game, then the confidence started growing, and all of a sudden the dudes just felt like, doesn't matter what happens, we're going to win this week. That's a real feeling. You can't touch it, and you can't put your finger on any one aspect of it. But when you're involved in it, I promise you could feel it.
And I would say probably that Green Bay Packers win too. You guys go into overtime, beat them 19-16. What was probably the thing that stuck out to you the most?
Well, anytime you're able to beat Green Bay, that's a thing, because regardless of what people want to say, that's one of the cornerstone franchises in this league that have been really, really solid for a long, long time. And that was a close ball game. And what I remember from that is that was a ball game. Here's the other thing about that team, Kayla, and I'm glad you brought it up. The fact that we were stacking wins and winning 10 in a row, we never talked about it. Jeff Fisher would never talk about it in the meetings. It was always the next game. It was always the next game. And that was one of those ball games, Kayla, that really stood out from the fact that it was not turning our way in that game. It was not. But when I talk about the fact that those guys, they just had a confidence that regardless of what was going to happen, they were going to find a way to get it done. And some teams just have that it to them. That team had it. That ball game exemplified it. It's a great example of you. That ball game exemplified it more than others because things weren't going our way in that ball game. Look, just because you won the week before guarantees you nothing the next week in the National Football League. And when we got on that run, everybody was gunning for us. Everybody was gunning for us, and especially as you start working and you could start to see. I was on teams like this early in my career in the Bears, where you're starting to have the division sewn up, and people can start to smell the fact that you're really, really good. They gun for you, whether you're coming into their place or they're coming into your place. That team just found a way to win that game.
He is Coach Tay McGinnis, presented as always by Farm Bureau Health Plans. A little throwback Thursday with Coach Mack here, going 15 years back in time to the 2008 Titans. This was fun, Coach Mack. Good trip down memory lane. We'll do it again next week.
Guys, really appreciate you guys. Thanks for bringing that up. That's a solid memory. Let's get on one of those runs again.
Let's do it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
All right. There's Coach Mack with us this morning on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. I want to dive into these stats back in 08. Coming up next. And the 2-season run that I think is one of the most underrated 2-season stretches in Titans history. Lindale White was a dog.
Yep.
In 07 and 08.
Sure was.
Before Chris Johnson became CJ2K and became Chris Johnson, Lindale White had 22 touchdowns in 2 seasons.
Yep.
That's tough.
Decent.
He was
We'll
on a
dive
roll.
into that coming up next on our own Kayla and Will.
It's Ramon Foster for Genesis Diamonds, and the clock is ticking on Genesis Diamonds' amazing finance offer. You have until Saturday at 6 p.m. to take advantage of the hottest offer of the summer. 5 years, 0 interest finance. And if you're thinking about it, stop thinking and go do it, okay? They'll be open today, tomorrow, and you can get this deal done on Saturday. So get in now and splurge. Maybe even treat yourself. If you're planning to propose, I'm not going to look at anybody at all, okay? But get that stunning designer engagement ring starting at a low as $67 a month, or a 3-carat lab-grown center diamond at just $99 a month, too. People have driven for hours to take advantage of this because they know it's good, so don't put it off. Buy that pre-owned Rolex or that designer ring or a simple diamond pendant. Get the incredible price Genesis is famous for. Then spread your payments over 5 years. 0.0 interest. It's insane. It's the smartest, easiest, and best way to buy. Nothing down and no interest for 5 years. But hurry. This incredible offer ends Saturday and will not be extended. Only at Genesis Diamonds. Own approved credit. See store for details.
It's Ramon, Kayla, and Will, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. And coming up in 10 minutes, talk a little Big Machine Music City Grand Prix with Devlin DeFrancesco, 23-year-old INDYCAR driver who will stop by on the show. 615-737-1045, how you join in on the conversation. So looking back at the 2008 Titans, really good stuff with Coach Mack. Always is, anytime he's on this station. But going back at that 2008 team, we mentioned with Coach Mack, Lendale White had 200 carries for 773 yards that season and 15 touchdowns. Smash and Dash was in its prime at that point with Lendale. Chris Johnson, who started 14 games and had just over 1,200 yards and 9 touchdowns. Coach Mack mentioned it. Lendale White actually had the longer touchdown run of the two.
Yeah.
Had an 80-yard touchdown run. Every single time I scored a touchdown at recess, so both times I scored a touchdown at recess, or at any time, actually I wasn't in elementary school at that point. So anytime I just scored a touchdown playing like pickup football with my friends, from that year on, I wanted to play the bongo drums after I scored the touchdown because of Chris Johnson in Kansas City when the 2008 Titans just absolutely blitzed the Chiefs 34-10 in Arrowhead Stadium.
This team, man, in general, like I remember watching too. This is my senior year in college and just watching them through the whole playoffs and stuff like that. Like it is kind of where I always go back to my phrase, everybody eats, B. Like, everybody on this team, like, his name's on here. Like, I didn't know who David Stewart was, but he's second-team All-Pro off top. And I'm thinking to myself, like, Cortland got his All-Pro. Albert got his. Like, Bully, like, it's so many guys on this. Kerry Collins was supposed to be Vince's backup, right?
Sure.
Pro Bowl out of this thing. Like, this is just like, we speak all about the X's and O's all we want to. If you got some dudes, like you had dudes on this team, and that's what this team is trying to get back to. Gosh, you can feast on this one.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, what you just said is in some ways reminding me of guys that came in this situation with this team and were asked to do a little bit more, right? You got to be a little bit better than just being a name. Like, you don't know much about. And that's what these Titans have done in terms of this year, bringing in these free agents. Like, how much are we really going to see out of these guys they brought in? Yeah. It looks positive from the little sample size we've seen so far in training camp. But that's an actual interesting thing there that you said, Ramon, because that kind of feels like what some of these players could be on this team, like putting their potential to where it could really go with this situation they're in.
Yeah.
That team, though, had veteran offensive line.
Yeah, no,
They
sure.
did,
I'm not
too.
saying that.
Yeah.
I'm saying
Yeah,
just
right.
more so just the different pieces, you know? Like, I'm not comparing it to that team in
Yeah,
any
of
way.
course.
I'm just saying, could these pieces, like some of those pieces, accelerate to the next level? More so
you hope so.
defensively, I guess, that
Definitely.
they brought in.
That defensive line was serious.
It was.
Albert Hainsworth, Tony Brown, Kyle Vanden Bosch. You had Dave Ball at defensive end, Jacob Ford at linebacker. Jason Jones was a young player at 22 years old playing DN. Of course, Javon Curse, 32 years old at that point in his career. But we mentioned it. Keith Bullock was the guy that got to stick around when Floyd Reese and the Titans had to kind of blow everything up a few years before in that 04 season when Coach Mack joined the coaching staff that Jeff Fisher had. Keith Bullock led that team with 98 tackles.
Crazy.
At 31 years old. That was kind of the culmination of Bully sticking around, being the holdover piece from one era to another. And Coach Mack mentioned it. That's why there's so much frustration from him and from a lot of guys on that team of not getting over the hump and going farther in the playoffs.
Is that like a Kevin Byard, though? Like holding over on the defensive side to be like...
Similar.
You know?
Yeah, it is. Also, somebody need to fix the Titans wiki page too, because
Why?
Bully's not on there for the All-Pro or Pro Bowls on
Oh,
here.
really?
Everybody but him. Yeah, I don't know who did that, but that's not okay.
That's not good.
Yeah, I just got a Football Reference.
Yeah, I know. Well, I was just looking at
sure.
the chronological, season and stuff. Yeah, very fascinating here, man.
But Lendale White was the most underrated Titan in that span. And in 07, he had 303 carries for 1,100 yards and 7 touchdowns. Was good. And then in 2008, 200 carries, 773 yards. The two backs combined for 2,001 yards between Lendale White and Chris Johnson. Smash and Dash was something different, man.
Well,
Hoping you get that out of Tajay.
Tajay Spears?
Yeah.
That's,
Hoping you
I
get
mean,
that.
in a different way, too, because I think pass catching could be a big thing that he's involved in. Real quick, with the Lindale Wright, it is interesting, though, because that's the same role he had at USC with Reggie Bush, the same exact role as he did with Chris Johnson and the Titans. It was like a perfect transition in a weird way.
That was a different NFL.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be harder to get backs to combine for 2,000 like that.
Mm-hmm.
Even though, I mean, Derek did it by himself. But on this team, yes, you might get that.
Yeah, that's what I was
A little
thinking.
bit.
But that was a
on
different
this team.
NFL where you weren't
A little
throwing the
more.
football as much.
Taylor.
Coming up next, we talk a little bit of Big Machine Music City Grand Prix with Devlin DeFrancesco, a 23-year-old Canadian INDYCAR driver who takes the mean streets in Asheville this August. Can't wait to catch up with him. Can't wait for another installment of the Music City Grand Prix. We get the scouting report on the track coming up next with Devlin DeFrancesco right here on 104.5 The Zone.
8 o'clock. Good morning from the Zone Studios. I'm Robert Walsh. A report from the NFL yesterday. A handful of NFL players, including Colts cornerback and kick returner Isaiah Rodgers, are expected to receive season-long suspensions this week for allegedly gambling. At least 1-year bets for players that have been suspended: Calvin Ridley, C.J. Moore, Quintez Cephas, Shaka Toney, and the players that made non-NFL bets but did at NFL facilities, Jamison Williams and Stanley Berry Hill, received 6 weeks. The first round of the NHL draft has concluded, and the Preds walk away with 2 new players. At 15, they select Matthew Wood, a 17-year-old, which was the youngest in D1. In 35 games, he had 11 goals, 34 points. And at 24, the Preds select defenseman Tanner Molendyk. The Chicago Bulls getting a head start on free agency by signing center Nikolai Vucevic to a 3-year, $60 million contract. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Second half of the show on a Thursday morning edition. Welcome in to Ramon, Kayla, and Will. We're powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors, alongside our 11-year NFL veteran, Ramon Foster, our broadcast veteran, Kayla Anderson, and the one and only Robert Walsh making the show happen. My name is Will Bowling. As we talk a little bit of Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, we've got Devlin DeFrancesco hanging out with us this morning here on the show, getting ready for the race that is just over a month away. What's going on, Devlin? How are you, man?
Hi, good morning. How are you?
We're good.
We're good. How excited are you to come back to Nashville? This city loves this event. I'm a huge fan. I've been to it every single year. How excited are you to be back here in the Music City here soon?
Super excited. You know, the Music City Grand Prix is one of my most favorite events of the year. Partly because of its unpredictability. Mm-hmm. You know, I think it can be quite a chaotic race and very entertaining for the fans, and really nobody knows what's going to happen. It really is a race about survival and executing and staying clean, and I think that's why it can be such an enjoyable race for the fans, as well as you know, if you have a setback or something like that at the start of the race, you can really make things happen.
So, Devlin, what is the most unique part of this track from the driver's perspective? Of course, for the spectators, going over the water, the bridge there, and just this street course that's so cool. For you as a driver, though, what is so different about this track versus some other ones?
You know, I'd say obviously going over the bridge and the nature of the bumps, how bumpy it can be, it's very aggressive, but as well how tight and twisty, you know, turn 4, 5, 6, you know, that section of the track after the bridge really is. You know, you can barely fit one INDYCAR there, let alone try and pass someone. So I think that's also partly what can make the racing so tight there, and you know, it does have a tendency to lead to many yellow flags, which can then open up a lot of strategy.
How, as pros, we all have small things we enjoy. And hearing you a second ago, you said you enjoyed the chaos of it all. Mm-hmm. Why is the chaos more fun than the actual smooth course?
You know, because no matter what happens, you have a shot to win at that place. You know, a couple years ago, someone flew through the air on lap 1, went back to last, ended up winning the race. So
wow.
It really just embodies that never give up attitude. And it really does reward that perseverance.
The pathway to get to this point as being a pro, what was it like for you as a youth? How early did you start racing also?
So I personally started go-karting in Toronto when I was 7 years old.
Yeah.
And it's been nonstop. It's been all I really ever did, all I really ever wanted to do growing up. I moved over to Europe when I was quite young. I lived in Italy when I was 12. And I was over in Europe back and forth till I was about 20 and had an opportunity to come back and link up with the Andretti Steinbrenner better team, and really haven't looked back since.
That was my question. Teaming up with Andretti and Steinbrenner, like how has that helped you, and how have you been able to take your skills to the next level as an autocar racer?
They provided me the opportunity to race the top level in the NTT IndyCar series, and they are, in my opinion, one of the best teams in the paddock. The resources they have around them, and the caliber of people they have in that team, you really can rely on them, and I could just end up focusing on doing my job at the end of the day.
So for those fans who are going to come, watch the IndyCar race here in the beginning of August, I think it's fun for fans sometimes to know some of these names, maybe names they don't know, and they can root for you, right? Because they heard a little bit about you. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Devlin, in terms of like just maybe what you like outside of racing, something like that the fans can maybe relate to.
Outside of racing, I live in Florida.
Okay.
I love to go on the water. I love to be on the beach. I like to wind down. I do love the chaotic side, traveling around, running around, all that stuff. But part of me does like to go to the gym every day, train, switch off, relax, go to a beach, go on the water, go water skiing, things like that.
Devlin DeFrancesco, our guest here this morning on Ramon Kalen Will, IndyCar driver who will be here for the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. Devlin, I'm always fascinated with the mindset of racers and what you're thinking as you're getting in that car. In those 10 minutes or so before you guys start, what's going through your head at that point to get yourself in the zone, so to speak, to just go through the rigorous racing that you guys do?
That's quite a very subjective question.
Yeah.
Everybody's different, and everybody ticks to different things. I've worked with plenty of mindset people and mind coaches and sports coaches to help figure out and unlock what I think works best for me. And personally, just being in a calm state, not getting myself amped up, worked up, being calm and just thinking about the processes that I need to do and the things I need to execute seem to be the best things for me.
I'm always intrigued by you guys, too, as drivers. On pedestrian roads, do you actually use your skill sets to navigate traffic? Like, do you have to govern how fast you go and what kind of turns you make? Because I would take advantage of those things.
I cannot confirm or deny, but
There we go.
But I am a law-abiding citizen.
There we go.
Perfect. Hey, Devlin, for all the Nashville Metro police officers listening to us right now, that is the right on-the-record answer for sure.
Is it hard for you to be a passenger then, Devlin?
Extremely.
Yep.
Extremely.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm not trying to incriminate you here. I just got to ask the question.
Saving that extra 2 minutes, by getting in the right lane and passing a couple, the 2 minutes there, the 30 seconds at the next stoplight intersection, it adds up.
It does. You're right.
Push to pass, so on a yellow light. It makes sense, man.
Then we got to ask the question then, what are we driving on the daily? We're an SUV guy, minivan, or are we going top-down sports car? What are we doing?
It's Miami, buddy.
So I had a BMW SUV, and I've actually just got myself an Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio, so I'm quite excited for that.
Francis, I'm here to tell you, you're definitely not abiding the rules on the road. Okay? You're not abiding by the rules.
Snitches get stitches, Ramon. Come on.
That is your opinion.
Well, bring the speed here. That's all we're asking for,
I
right?
love it.
Yes, sir.
Devlin, on the way out, man, with the way the sport has grown here in the United States and the Netflix series and Drive to Survive, the way that's kind of created a new audience for IndyCar and for Formula One here in the United States. How much have you really seen the sport grow here in the United States as someone that has been around the world, been in Europe, and calls Florida home now?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question? I didn't hear you.
Sorry. Just how much have you really seen the sport grow? I know the Netflix series and Drive to Survive gets a lot of attention, but for you guys as IndyCar, how cool has it been to see events like this one in Nashville pop up as your sport grows so much here in the United States?
It's great to see. I've seen IndyCar grow massively. We actually have our own show by CW called 100 Days to Indy. We've had a lot of good traction with that, and just to show what INDYCAR is all about. And for Penske Entertainment and Roger taking over our series and seeing the things that he's done and the events that they've started to put on, but just like the Music City GP at Nashville, and it's just the people that is attracting and the traction that our series is getting.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff. And we were looking forward to the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix here in Nashville. Devlin DeFrancesco will be there. Great stuff, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us this morning.
Definitely.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Devlin.
Absolutely. There he is with us on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline as we continue this morning with some headlines here in just a moment. But that is, I think, them and boxers. Racers and boxers are the ones that I'm most fascinated with the mindset when they enter the ring or enter the car. Like, what are you thinking in that moment to just, like, put yourself through? I mean, and that's
chaos.
any athlete, but like putting your life on the line, literally, in a car.
That's how Caleb Plant is, though, in the ring. Like, you're right. He has the same sort of mindset. Like, you ask that guy how he prepares as he's walking in the ring, it's like, I'm just ready to screw up the other person.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, for him, for Devlin, it was like, I'm just ready to get out there and turn on the gas pedal and keep it there.
It's funny.
See chaos.
He mentioned, somebody that was airborne and still went on to win.
He went airborne, didn't he?
First race of this season.
Yeah.
Wow.
With Graham Rahal.
That's insane. I couldn't imagine not being in control of a car at that moment and something what you're supposed to be doing. It's not like, he's on a regular road, Citizens Road. No, he's actually supposed to be doing that. And the fact you lose control like that, goodness. I did want to ask him one more time, though. It's like, man, I know I can't fit in your car to drive it, but he go get an Alfa Romeo and I can't even be in the passenger seat with him.
Oh, God.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
you have to be on the roof.
I got to be on the roof. Tie me to the top.
You want to do the first drive, Ramon?
I do
Music City Grand Prix.
The first acceleration.
Oh, my God.
You know they don't take bathroom breaks there, right? You would be stuck there.
Oh, yeah.
I know.
So 3HL was talking about this when they had Denny Hamlin on and NASCAR was here last week.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they sweat so much that I don't think they need a bathroom break.
They can just pee?
They sweat it out.
They sweat out their pee.
Okay.
That's the same thing that happens in football games, though.
I was going to say that's the same thing that happened to me in college.
Unless you're Lamar Jackson.
Did I sweat too much or did I pee the bed?
Only time I had to go is at halftime when we were calm. It was like, oh, now my bodily fluids like, okay, we got to go. I'm like,
but y'all go into the tent.
I don't know what those guys were doing that had to go into the tent.
Y'all didn't have the tent.
We had to.
Did
No,
you
we
not?
didn't at the time. No.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
We had to go
The
hide
tent's
behind.
a new thing.
That's a popular item for bathroom breaks.
We had to go hide behind like the communications drum thing. Like you had to go get on the knee and go. You had to have a couple teammates around you, baby. Can't be gunshot.
The All-22 was getting some
No pun intended.
My
22 was getting a few views.
footage.
Yeah, no, we ain't have that tent. Luxury. These
They're
kids
lucky.
these days.
I know, right? These meddling kids.
That's Kirby Allen Kirby, by the way, too, on those. Every one of those reveals is Kirby Allen Kirby.
They
Kirby,
should hire
You're
him.
Meddling
saying-
kids.
You saying Kirby is a Scooby-Doo villain?
At all times. Kirby's always on the scene. And know a lot, too.
Ruh-roh.
I saw him
yeah.
on the stream yesterday with Savage.
Yeah. He helped me out yesterday with the mic flags.
Yeah.
Always doing something.
Also didn't know it's Ron Slay's birthday.
Happy birthday,
I was gonna
Slay!
say, yeah. So it is our 6'8" Nashville power forward
my
is
God.
celebrating a birthday today. Happy birthday to
That's a
Nashville
tall
Zone.
dude.
You have to draw.
Good luck. I don't care is what Ramon Foster says every time that I say Ron Slay is 6'8".
This man is
I heard he was 6'9".
just because. I hate y'all.
You got to get Ramon some lifts, man.
I'm getting some
There's those
insoles.
platform moon
Yeah,
boots.
I'm getting more orthotics. I got some orthotics at the house I'm putting in. Just so y'all know, I'm coming in taller tomorrow.
Okay.
It's Friday and we gonna act like
That's
it. Just
true.
because
Tomorrow
he's
is our
6'8".
last show with you until
Oh
like
my gosh.
Yeah.
July 11th.
I'm planning on
Wow.
trying to make sure I do work for you guys next week. Scout meeting Wednesday can't stop. Won't
No.
stop.
Can't stop, won't stop.
Rockefeller.
Got to keep that
Records.
going.
Get down, baby. We get down.
Coming
Is
up
that it?
next, I don't see any scenario of that. Bryant McFadden joins us talking NFL headlines from CBS Sports. His perspective on the better fit for DeAndre Hopkins between the Titans and Patriots and the better quarterback between Mac Jones and Ryan Tannehill. With B-Mac on the other side. It's Mo, Kalen, Will, 104.5 The Zone. Hey, it's Will Bowling. You're looking to keep your home in great shape year-round? Well, sign up for a Lee Company home maintenance plan for $12 a month. Plan members receive 4 service visits a year from the Lee Company team of experts. 4 visits, that's 1 visit per quarter. That's perfect. For every season, you get a heating system tune-up, an air conditioning tune-up, an electrical inspection, and a detailed plumbing inspection on those 4 annual visits for $12 a month. For the very best in-home service, you've got to call Lee Company at 615-567-1000 for your summer, your winter, your spring, and your fall. They're the ones that got you covered. They've been trusted for nearly 80 years here in Middle Tennessee for a reason, and you can visit them online at leecompany.com and search home maintenance plan to join their membership. That's $12 a month for my friends at Lee Company. 615-567-1000. That's the number you need to call. Online at leecompany.com. That's Lee Company, all you need. Thursday morning on a boat, Kayla and Will is powered by all Four Seasons Garage Doors here on 104.5 The Zone.
Okay, rhyme it then, Will. Come on. Who else? Come on. You got it.
Ramon Foster,
Yeah.
Kayla
We're not
Anderson,
starting
Robert
that
Walsh,
trivia
our
yet,
producer.
or are we?
I'm Will Bowling, and joining us to the Marks Payne Real Estate Hotline this morning, our guy, Bryant McFadden from CBS Sports.
Whose song is this?
I don't know.
He's putting you on the spot.
B-Mac knows.
Turntables.
How the turntables? Who is this?
Who's this, B-Mac? Is he on with us?
What's up, B-Mac?
Young Jeezy, and I thank you for that theme music. I would be
Look at
okay, guys, if every time you have me on, you can play that for me. My
Perfect.
walk-up music, that would
Okay,
be
perfect.
dope. Okay?
That's great.
That's Young Jeezy, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah. The one with him and Jay, when Jay jumped on there. Ooh.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So please put that in the bookmark. Anytime B-Mac is on, that's what I need to come up with.
Go crazy. And the only reason I asked you, B-Mac, is because we're in the music city, country homeland in Nashville, and it's a lot of country music, B-Mac artists. Like, I know the songs, but I don't know who actually sings it, okay? So I'm flipping it on
question.
Will. So when there's a rap song come on, I'm asking him. You feel me?
It's not great.
Yeah.
No question. Oh, how the tables have turned.
That's right. So, B-Mac, we're doing a little bit of a throwback Thursday this morning. We've been talking, we had Coach Mack, Coach Dave McGinnis, former Cardinals coach and Titans linebackers coach on with us, talking about the 2008 Titans, which I'm sure maybe brings up a little bit of emotion for you, considering that noteworthy game that happened between the Titans and then the curse thereafter for the Titans against the Steelers. So when I say 2008 Tennessee Titans, what feelings does that stir up in you, Brian?
A very, very explosive team led by Chris Johnson. You had experienced playmaker at the quarterback position in Kerry Collins. A well-rounded team. That just couldn't get it done. For some reason, they just couldn't get it done. And it's funny that you mentioned 2008 Titans team because we played them, Ramon, remember, I think it was in December around Christmas time.
It was.
And they kicked us in the mouth. They literally kicked us in the mouth. And I just did my podcast with Dick LeBeau, and I'm dropping that this weekend, All Things Covered. Shameless plug, but if you haven't checked us out, please subscribe and tell a friend and tell a friend. But he mentioned that ball game as something that needed to happen for us because we were just riding so high, Ramon, as you know.
Yeah.
And we go to Tennessee, man, and we didn't allow one running back to have 100 yards. Chris Johnson was able to surpass that. We couldn't get any stops. They stopped our offense. And it kicked us in the mouth. And that kind of made us come back down to reality to fine-tune some things to get ready to have a significant playoff push. And guess what happened? We became the number 2 seed because of that loss. Tennessee was the number 1 seed.
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee lost to the Baltimore Ravens, who ended up playing us in the AFC Championship game, and the rest is history. Wow. So that Tennessee team was loaded. But for some reason, man, in the playoffs, man, and that has been a reoccurring thing for high-seeded teams from Tennessee in regards to the Titans organization. They don't have a long, lengthy playoff run, which is expected of them based on how well they perform in the seed that they have in the playoffs. Go back a few years ago when they lost to Cincinnati. If I'm not mistaken, guys, Tennessee was the number 1 seed then, right?
They were. Mm-hmm. They had that one. They had 2000, and then you had the other Ravens loss in 2021. The 2020 season out of the pandemic, where they weren't the 1 seed, but they were hosting Baltimore when Baltimore danced on the logo here. I'm bringing up all kind of bad memories here from my Titans fandom, but that was December 21st, 2008. I'm glad you brought up Dick LeBeau to B-Mac, because for those of us that got to spend time around him or just even listen to him do interviews when he was the Titans defensive coordinator, I would venture to say there is not a more interesting person in the history of football as a player and a coach as Dick LeBeau. There are people that maybe are as interesting as Dick LeBeau. There is no one in this league who has been more interesting than that man, right?
I agree. You got to look at it from Dick LeBeau's side of things. As a player or as a coach, he spent almost 7 decades giving his life to the NFL. Think about
Crazy.
that. 7 decades, basically, being associated with the NFL. He dominated as a player. 62 interceptions in his career. 62 interceptions. Played with the likes of Lem Barney, Big Night Train Lane. I mean, those guys combined had almost 190 interceptions throughout their professional career, just commanding the secondary. And then, of course, than becoming a coach. And Ramon, you know how we all felt about Dick LeBeau.
Yeah.
We gave him the utmost respect because that's the type of person he was, and that's what he gave us. And anything he asked us to do, we were willing to go out and do it. And we knew he would put us in positions to be successful. He's one of the true pioneers of the game of football. Because think about it like this as well. Being a creator of the Fire Zone, and he also shared the story of how that Fire Zone, that concept became a thing for him. That defensive mindset is ran throughout football. Pop Warner football, middle school, high school, college. People are running Fire Zones on any level. And when you think about the Fire Zone concepts, you got to give all the credit to Dick LeBeau because he's the individual that kind of created that concept that is ran throughout football and probably will be here until the year 3000.
Yeah, no doubt about it, B-Mac. It's interesting because it's awesome we got you coming on because we can speak about that 08 team, and you was there and played against this team here to get both sides of it. Honestly, we had Coach Mack on earlier, and the one thing I have to ask you, I don't know if we've ever asked anybody to actually explain like how you guys felt. And was there a lot of animosity? I know Lindell's a hot-headed guy or has been known to be very passionate. We won't say hot-headed, passionate. The towel stumping, did you guys see that? What actually led to that? Like, what was the rebuttal behind it, seeing it?
Man, listen, going into that ball game in late December, we knew a lot was riding on that ball game. Clearly, the fight for the number 1 seed, right? And the fear that Chris Johnson provided is something that most players don't ever see as a defender. I mean, Randy Moss in his heyday, I would imagine, provided the same fear when he was with the Minnesota Vikings. Heck, the same could be said when he was with the New England Patriots. That's how we looked at Chris Johnson. And at that time, we took pride in effacing opposing offenses' running game instantly. That's what we did. You know, we stopped the run first and make you throw the football.
Yeah.
And we didn't allow one running back to have 100 yards of rushing on us throughout the entire year. And Coach LeBeau was just telling us, be gap sound, play with the right gap integrity, know where you're supposed to be, know where your help is, because if you're not there for this, if you're undisciplined for a split second, he's going to take it to the house. And that's what Chris Johnson did. So that was our main focus, was stopping 28, because CJ2K was unbelievable, one of the more explosive, fearful running backs ever in the game, and he took advantage of us.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And we spoke about it earlier, looking at CJ2K and Lindell too, is the idea that you don't necessarily see a whole lot in today's game, B-Mac. The 1-2 punch with two running backs can get pretty much 2,000 yards, 2,300 yards in today's game. Is that something, honestly, will we see go back to the league in a sense, where the running game kind of sneaks up on us?
Well, the unique thing that Tennessee had, especially that year, 2008, you had a guy. You had a guy who was the ultimate speed demon. Then you had a guy who was the complement to Chris Johnson, a heavier back, as you mentioned, a bruiser, a guy that you don't want to see late in the fourth quarter when he's just continuing to lean on you, because that wears you down. And then you come in with a guy who can take a 5-yard run and go 80 at any given time. I'm trying to think about when you talk about in the National Football League, offenses that have two running backs that complement each other extremely well, but they're different styles. I'm trying to kind of
was it Zeke and Pollard? That's the latest.
Yeah.
But now,
that could be that's a nice one. Yeah, Tony
Mark
Pollard,
Ingram and
Elliott.
Alvin Kamara.
Two different styles. But Pollard had that speed that Zeke really didn't have right now in this stage in his career. The difference is from what Dallas did compared to what Tennessee did is just being devoted to the running game.
Yeah.
That's the thing that Tennessee did. They were devoted to running the football.
Yeah, I mean, and they have been devoted to running the football. Even now, I mean, they still have Derrick Henry, but there is talk, B-Mac, you've heard it, over the last month or so of the D-Hop sweepstakes and where he could land. I mean, they'd like to bolster that wide receiver room to add some sort of pizzazz to this, what seems to be a little bit of a new offense under Tim Kelly. So where do you feel like he'll land? It looks like it's between the Patriots and Titans, but who knows at this point?
I think he ultimately lands with New England because of the love that Belichick has for D-Hop. It's been known. That has been the worst-kept secret in the National Football League in regards to how much Bill Belichick loves D-Hop as a football player. Now, ultimately, it's all about the contract, what is being received and everything like that. But if you throw out the contract aside, I think he goes to New England. But in regards to the biggest need, Tennessee needs him the most. New England has some pieces in place at the wide receiver position. They devoted, some assets to that position over the last few years via free agency or via the draft. And heck, they just brought in Juju Smith-Schuster. You know what I mean?
Right.
So they added some pieces to that unit. Tennessee, they've lost pieces. So for me, the biggest need, who needs D-Hop the most is the Titans. But who ultimately lands D-Hop, I think, would be the Patriots.
You were saying it's like the best kept secret in the NFL. I'm just curious, what exactly was that relationship like? When is there a way, like a reason it started, or why is that? It's just like a respect for one another type of thing?
I think it's a respect for one another, and also too, Belichick he's faced off against D-Hop quite a few times in his career, especially down in Houston. And you look at what D-Hop did with pretty much anybody throwing him the football, you got to respect that.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he always had the Deshaun Watsons of the world throwing him passes. No, he had some guys that wasn't the ideal number one quarterback throwing him the football, but he still did numbers. He still was consistent. I think Belichick really respected that because wide receivers can definitely give you numbers when they have Hall of Famers throwing them the football, but what can they do when they have guys that are not supposed to be the starter throwing them footballs? Will they still show up in the stat sheet? D-Hop has always been able to do that, and I think that really allowed Belichick to gravitate to D-Hop as a football player.
Bryant McFadden, CBS Sports, our guest here this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. When you talk about Mike Vrabel being the player's coach that he is and guys being so willing to play for him and play for that kind of guy, how much of a positive is that for this Titans organization right now? Obviously, the no state income tax, it always helps the Titans when you talk about luring big money guys and signing these big contracts. But how much would you, if you were in the shoes of DeAndre Hopkins or a guy in this stage of their career, how much would playing for Mike Vrabel be a positive, or is it even maybe a negative, just how hard he pushes guys, even as veterans, practicing every day and pushing sleds and OTAs and things like that?
I mean, pushing sleds won't affect D-Hop because he's a wide receiver. So D-Hop will probably have vet days after vet days. And you know what those vet days are when you don't really practice a lot because you're an experienced vet. But just having a player's coach, being your head coach, is a real thing. And people, experienced guys, want to have that as their luxury because Vrabel knows how it feels to be in that fire. Vrabel knows how it feels to be in in day 10 in training camp and your legs are gone. Mentally you're fighting that hurdle right now, trying to get over that hurdle in training camp. It's hot. Your body is starting to talk to you. He knows how it feels. He knows how it feels to be in the fourth quarter. And man, we gotta get something done. We gotta either get a score or get a stop. And he coaches the same way, and that's why we've seen a lot of success from Vrabel and not having a lot around him. Let's keep it real. Mike Vrabel has done a lot with less throughout his time in Tennessee. That's something that a lot of people haven't talked about. And I understand people will say, well, the division has been watered down for a few years. I can care less. He's still showing up and he's showing out, and he's been finding a way to get into the tournament. And you have to respect that. So for D-Hop, I think being at this stage in his career, going into a situation where you have a former player as your head coach, he will know how to take care of his body. You know what I mean? He would know how to keep him in positions to be successful, to make a lengthy, productive run throughout the year.
B-Mac, the situation right now is Aaron Rodgers with the Jets. Are you willing to give him creative control when it comes down to hard knocks if they get it?
Oh, my goodness. I mean, based on what the Jets have done to get Aaron Rodgers, I'm pretty sure they would give him creative control.
Okay.
Like Aaron Rodgers, they sold the farm to get Aaron Rodgers, deserving so, because they've been playing with 10 guys on offense for the last few years. So now finally getting that 11th guy, which is the quarterback of Aaron Rodgers, whatever it is he wants, he can get. I'm pretty sure those Nick games that we saw Aaron Rodgers at, he didn't pay for those tickets. You better believe he didn't pay for it. He has the key to the city. That's why he's having so much fun, because he's getting all the entertainment he wants outside the football field, probably for free, because they needed to do everything in their power to get him there. So, yes, he will probably be creative control, executive producer, director, co-writer, whatever it is he want to be. If they're involved in Hard Knocks, Aaron Rodgers will have a say-so.
Aaron Rodgers gets control of Hard Knocks the way Zach Wilson gets control of the moms of New
there
York
it
City.
is.
Bryant
There it
McFadden,
is.
our guest this morning here on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Check out the podcast with Dick LeBeau coming out soon. BMAC, when and where can the people find that?
Anywhere podcasts are found, Spotify, Apple. We also have a YouTube page as well. So if you want to see my smile, Dick LeBeau smile, Pat Peterson smile, check us out on YouTube as well. All Things Covered /YouTube. That's our YouTube channel. Hit the like and subscribe button and tell a friend to tell a friend.
I love it.
Amen.
Awesome.
Bryant McFadden bringing it as always with us here on RKW. Appreciate it, BMAC.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, man.
All right, there he is. Bryant McFadden bringing it with us here on Ramon, Kayla, and Will as we dive into some more headlines coming up next and take a look at that story from Mike Florio earlier this week of Pro Football Talk on reasons why the Jets are bracing for Hard Knocks or maybe just saying no. And the 4 finalists and the team that I'm most interested in, and maybe you are too, of these last 4 teams. Coming up next on RKW. Thursday morning on Remote, Kayla and Will, and it's powered by all Four Seasons Garage Doors here on 104.5 The Zone. Coming up in hour 4, teams that hate their fan bases the most. It is installment number 2 of the RKW Draft as Kayla Anderson tries to defend her title of us drafting in a 4-round snake draft teams that put their fan bases through the most misery. Very excited about this. 615-737-1045, our number if you want to jump in. Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, reported earlier this week that Hard Knocks is, I guess, the leader in the clubhouse right now going to the New York Jets. But there is one specific reason for the Jets to be hesitant about hosting the show, and that's because they don't want to give Aaron Rodgers total, production control.
Yeah. It would be pretty much the creator.
That's right.
Of content for them.
Aaron Rodgers films.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers films, man. It's a lot, but as B-Mac said a second ago, as much as they've bent the knee already, what do you think is going to stop his show right now? That's one thing about Aaron. I got to give it to him. You can love or hate him, but he determines what's going to happen around him. And when you're that good and hadn't won a Super Bowl in 15 years, I guess you can get those types of things. He beat us. That's the only reason I say that. Punk.
And you better enjoy it while he can, because, I mean, he's on the latter part of his career. So if he's going to take creative control and take all the other control that is going on in New York, then so be it. I've heard that they've had a little bit of a difficult time, with getting the HBO show of Hard Knocks this year, where they were even begging the Lions to perhaps double dose on last year. So I think it's a good thing if they get the New York Jets to do this. However, I just think if it's going to be Aaron Rodgers controlling all of it, we either going to see some crazy stuff, psychedelics and all that, or we're going to see nothing, because he's going to be like, I'm not letting you see anything we do behind the scenes.
Of all 32 teams, if I was ranking 1 to 32 on who I would want to get Hard Knocks, the Jets would be number 32.
You don't
really?
I do not care at all.
I kind of like Sauce Gardner.
Because
and
Aaron
those
Rodgers
guys.
has been the news cycle for the last 4 years of will he, won't he leave Green Bay. I want to know about other people that play in this league. I have Aaron Rodgers fatigue. I am suffering from Aaron Rodgers fatigue. I'm ready to hear about stories that haven't been told versus the one that, so Hard Knocks lost me when they went to Vegas or when they went to Oakland.
That's when it lost me, Will.
And they wouldn't do a thing about the team is going to move.
Yep.
And they didn't do a thing about Antonio Brown freezing his feet or not wanting to play with the right helmet. And at that point, they lost me forever. It was way too much of what that team wanted to be out and what the NFL wanted to be out, that there is enough documentary storytelling now in the NFL and just in sports that I don't have to waste my time with the fake PR crap. I can actually go watch. I would rather just watch The Last Dance again versus go watch Hard Knocks.
That's fair.
Things like that.
I think it's also because these players are way more out there with their lives, right? Like we
100%.
see behind the scenes so much more of what they're even doing on a daily basis. So when it comes to now that they're in training camp, we're like, oh, we kind of already know that storyline. Like we've already kind of seen him in the off season or what he does or what he likes. And so it's not as interesting, I feel like, as it used to be.
So a team can decline being the subject of the show if they've made the playoffs in the last 2 seasons, if the team has a first-year head coach, or if the team has been featured on Hard Knocks in the last decade. Those are the rules, and they are unflinchingly rigid. So the other finalists are the Chicago Bears, which that's my pick. That's who I want to know about at this point. Justin Fields, young kind of regime there in Chicago. Ryan Poles, the general manager.
Yeah.
I like the up-and-comers a lot more than I like the established teams when it comes to Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
Bears, Saints, Commanders, and Jets. I don't think they're going to do Commanders because of the Dan Snyder stuff.
No, too sticky still.
I think you're probably a year away from them with Josh Harris officially being the owner doing that, because there are way too many owner-related storylines that they would have to not touch for them to do that. So I bet it's either Bears or Jets, if I had to guess. The Saints, the other team, who cares?
I don't care
Saints
about
don't move
Derek
the
Carr.
I don't mind the Jets so much though because they're only like established at the top level.
Yeah.
Like the rest of their core is all young dudes with like Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner, Brees Hall, Michael Carter. Like it's all younger guys. So like as long as they made it about those guys and establishing them as characters, I would be okay with it. As long as it's not the Aaron Rodgers show, but it inevitably will be.
Going to
Yeah.
be.
And I think the one thing they're worried about is the lighting with Aaron. You know, he prefers darker stuff, so you'd have to bring some lights in. The equipment budget would probably be insane.
Yeah. The only other team I think it's up and coming would be Houston. I actually love to see that.
I would too.
I love to see
be
Houston.
bad.
Any of the AFC South teams would be more interesting.
Would the Titans ever do it?
Yeah, I think they would.
They would.
Do you think they would have to be forced?
Probably.
I think so.
Heck yes.
I don't know.
Because I don't know if Mike Vrabel would be like, yeah, come on in.
I would
Bring
think-
on the camera
I think
crew.
Mike would just wash his hands of it and say, "No, I'm not dealing with any of that. Y'all figure it out."
He would make
people for that.
a record for the least words said on Hard Knocks.
He would give the camera people too much of a hard time, I think.
Hard Knocks at this point is just like so much. Well, so the only pushback I'll give on that, and you might be right, the way Titans social media has now evolved and the amount of mic'd up videos that Vrabel lets them do. I know Nate Bain, the director of social media for the Titans, has actually talked about this a lot on Twitter, that Mike is actually pretty good to work with them. Mm-hmm. You're always going to be good for your team people because they're on your side and you've got editorial control, but you do over Hard Knocks too. So at the end of the day, if Mike wanted things not on Hard Knocks, he could have the right contractually to say, I don't want this on Hard Knocks.
Right.
Speaking of which, though, the Jets, were they the last crazy Hard Knocks we've had? Most memorable?
Most
With Rex?
memorable.
Refresh that.
The Browns one was interesting.
Oh, yeah. When he
Of
was
the
hugging on
O-line
guys.
coach standing on the sled doing the
And his belly was going up.
The other classic from that is no bleep, I got a lozenge.
well, the Hugh Jackson thing of him like
And
fighting
him
with
and-
his offensive coordinator
That was,
with
Right.
Haley.
Haley, yeah.
Todd
you know
Haley.
Todd Haley.
That guy.
Trading Corey Coleman. That was a good season.
Because
That
the
was.
whole thing was about like Hugh Jackson thought he ended up coming out of that looking good, and then the rest of the world did not think he came out of that looking
He
good.
didn't.
So
He been
the
through
head
he is a
coach,
head coach.
the head coach at the end of the day gets, does get the old, the final say.
I think actually Rand would be up for it.
Sure.
In the first year, it'd be interesting.
Maybe not the
Yeah,
first year, but
yeah.
his personality seems to fit that a little bit
Yeah.
more than John.
I just think Hard Knocks was the original in terms of in season and production and all these things that happen in real time. We have so many more options now.
Yeah.
There's a documentary about every single league and every sport right now, and all of them, in my opinion, are more authentic and real and unfiltered than Hard Knocks. So
Yeah.
coming up, haven't talked a lot of NHL draft yet. We'll get Kayla Anderson's takeaways on just the draft as a whole, what the experience was like at Bridgestone Arena last night as the Preds make 2 editions of the first round of last night's draft. And we have a draft at 9:20.
Yes, we do.
Big draft hour coming up next on RKW.
9:01. Happy Thursday from the Zone Studios. I'm Robert Walsh. A report from the NFL yesterday. A handful of NFL players, including Colts cornerback and kick returner Isaiah Rodgers, are expected to receive season-long suspensions this week for allegedly gambling. Now, some of the suspensions the NFL has handed out over the last year for 1 year were people making bets on the NFL. That list includes Calvin Ridley, C.J. Moore, Quintez Cephas, and Shaka Toney. Now, for players that bet non-NFL bets but at an NFL facility, they got 6 weeks. That would be Jamison Williams and Stanley Berry-Hill. In the NHL Draft, the first round concluded last night, and the Preds walked away with 2 new players. At 15, they selected Matthew Wood, a 17-year-old who played 35 games, 11 goals, and 34 points. And at 24, the Preds selected defenseman Tanner Molendyk. And in the NBA, the Chicago Bulls are getting a head start on free agency by signing center Nikola Vucevic to a 3-year, $60 million contract extension. Last year for the Bulls, he averaged 17, 11, and 3 while shooting 52% from the field. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5.
It's the fourth and final hour already on your Thursday Junior. RKW is powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. The NFL Draft was here in 2019. Now it's the NHL's turn, and every Thursday in the offseason, it's the RKW Draft. Taking the mean streets of Nashville. Coming up in 20 minutes, teams that put their fan bases through the most misery. That is what we were drafting today. In our second snake draft, Kayla Anderson holding a 1-0 series lead. She's here. Ramon Foster's here. We got Robert Walsh making the show happen. Sammy Kincaid, our newest 104.5 The Zone teammate, hanging out in studio. Great to have the full team here on this Thursday morning. And a full Bridgestone Arena last night, Kayla, for the NHL Draft.
Man, it was cool. So it was here in 2003. Clearly, I wasn't here. Sammy, I don't know if you were here, Will, but it's changed
I was 6,
since
but I was
then.
here.
Yeah, I mean, and think about the Predators going on that run in 2017. I think that really boosted this city in terms of a hockey city to a whole nother level. And so now you see the draft returning in 2023. And you guys, it was electric last night. Clearly, you have the Preds fans all in the arena while the draft is going on, all the teams on the floor. But I think it's just people who come here, even from Montreal and Toronto, where hockey is king up there. That's what they live for. And they come down here and they see how much the city's embraced hockey, and they're giving you compliments as just being here, living here. They're like, wow, we're really impressed by the city and its hockey knowledge and just the way that they treat it. So that's a good sign when you're having those original 6 teams kind of say that. But as for just the whole event, it was great. It was the fastest, I think, NHL draft they've had in years because there were no trades.
Oh, wow.
So everybody was like, this is a victory. But for the top 3, and that's what everybody looks at, right? Those are the names everybody knows. Nobody was surprised. Connor Bedard going at number 1. And guys, you talk about Victor Wembanyama. Like, this is a Victor Wembanyama of the NHL. Yeah. Like, this is a guy who they predicted since he was pretty much, in his teens, 14, that he was going to be that dude. And he's going to be. He's going to be a plug-and-play player since day one. They're going to hopefully get back to what the Blackhawks, at least fans, feel like is, the teams that they were when they were winning championships with Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews. But the only kind of crazy thing that happened was in the second pick with Anaheim, they were going to go with the Michigan kid who scored 30 goals this year, broke records, Adam Fantilli, and they didn't go with him. They went with the Swede, Leo Carlsson. So everybody was kind of like, whoa, what happened? So then the Blue Jackets, a team I used to cover, gets this Adam Fantilli kid right down the road. He goes to enemy territory, there in Columbus and joins a whole bunch of other Wolverines. So they were really excited about that. And then the Preds, making their first pick at 15. They're going with the big kid out of UConn, the forward in Wood. And so that kid's going to be, I think, eventually a guy that will add to their arsenal in terms of just forwards. It might get him a couple years to get there, but I think that it was a good pick at 15 considering what was there. Because if you're not in the top 5, you're pretty much not going to get a guy that's going to start day one.
Okay.
So that's like a little basis. Matthew Wood from UConn.
That's right. One of 2 first-round picks the Preds made last night.
Right. They got the other kid too. I got to remember his name here. Sorry, I was doing 80. Yeah. So Tanner Molendyke is a defensive player, which I think we weren't surprised to see them go with him at 24 because they've already kind of started to do the work to bolster this offense. Mm-hmm. But they can't forget about who they are as a team, and that's based on defense. That's what this team has always kind of had, is that defensive presence. Having Roman still there, they still have a guy with carryover. And so this is another young kid to get a few years in him, kind of get things right in terms of going back and doing some stuff in the league, and then coming back and making his debut. He could be a good player too, so we'll see what happens. This is just the part of the draft, though. You just never know.
Yeah,
you never know.
Is football and basketball the only sports where the anybody can play in their first years? Baseball, hockey, soccer, football.
I mean, baseball and hockey are the other 2 major 4 who are
don't.
You don't.
You can if you're like a Connor Bedard. Or
hearing you say like only the top 5, heck, the first 14 players of the NBA lottery are slated to play,
Soccer's so different because you have youth academies and you can bring up homegrown players who are 16 and they can play right away. Or you can draft somebody like Nashville SC drafted Jack Mayer. This is his 4th season and his first year as a full-time starter. Mm-hmm. And he was the first ever draft pick in 2020.
And a lot of them even like you can pick them high and they're here for 2-3 years in developmental leagues and then they just get traded without even making it to the NHL. And you're like, wait, didn't we have a guy back in the day that was drafted pretty high? They're part of trades and you get value for them sometimes and they never even play for you. So it's interesting. Hockey's interesting.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
It's hard to follow. I will say that.
And the fact that you can loan players to either the KHL in Russia or they go back to the WHL or the OHL or the Quebec Junior Hockey League. And, Molendyke is a guy that came from Saskatoon and played in the Eastern Conference Final last year. And guys like that go back to their teams they just got drafted from all the time, which is fascinating to me.
Yeah, they just keep on working on things. With most of them need that. But you were right, too, real quick, with like a thing like that. Matvey Metcalf was one of the Russian players that played in the KHL. He would have went top 3 any other year, but because he was under contract for 3 years over in Russia in the KHL, like the teams didn't want to maybe perhaps take that chance because they couldn't get him for 3 years.
Yeah.
But wouldn't he be more ready to go?
He's already that kind of, he's that good.
Okay.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, he could be a guy who they could use probably now or at least in a year.
He's under contract already.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like Shohei's
geopolitics
situation.
in Russia, too. They haven't been able to go over there and even scout him, really. So
the KHL was a big deal in Nashville when Alexander Radulov originally left Nashville while the Preds were at the height of their powers. Left the Preds to go to the KHL and then came back and went to another team and said, "Nah, I'm good."
Yep.
And then was Montreal, I believe, is his first place when he came back, and then ended up being in Dallas when Stars and Preds played in the playoffs, and that was a big deal back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Radulov was one of my favorites. Paul Kariya was always my favorite Pred, though.
Yeah, Paul Kariya,
the original
what
number 9. Okay, Hall of Famer, hockey Hall of Famer, Paul Kariya.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
As of I think last year. Yeah, that was talking hockey.
There we go.
You can tell though the NHL is trying to push and make it a little bit bigger. I was telling, I think it might have been Bird or Will, or we may have talked about it's like the difference between the show the NFL puts on almost compared to everybody. Like being in Nashville did help that because Nashville always comes out for the for anything, and the draft was huge. Seeing local kids, I'm sure, in hockey jerseys getting autographs. The optics were really good, but it's the idea that everybody's chasing to get as big as the NFL here. And it will growth, exposure, right?
NHL is never going to be anywhere close. I mean, this is coming from a hockey fan. Like, it's not going to be close to that. But they are taking the right steps in growing the game. If you go to a game, a lot of times it's going to catch you. Like, you're going to be like, this is really fun. I've talked to so many people who have just done that once, and they're kind of addicted. But also things like TSU starting their first ever HBCU collegiate hockey program. And Nashville is the place that it's going to start in HBCUs. That's huge, you guys. It got huge national attention yesterday. And those are just the small pieces to continue to grow the game and expand the fan base.
Yeah.
It is interesting to me because it feels like soccer has at least drawn level with hockey in the United States. Not MLS versus NHL. MLS is quickly growing and I think can get to that point, but has some ground to make up since it's really not that old. But I feel like there is as much interest in European soccer as there is hockey in the country.
Yeah, probably. And that's
when you
why
look at the TV ratings, it backs that up.
Yeah.
And that's why I think they know they need to continue to put the foot on the pedal, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Stanley Cup Final ended with its smallest Game 5 audience in nearly 3 decades. It averaged a 1.4 rating and 2.7 million viewers across TNT True TV. That was the smallest audience for a Game 5 of the Cup Final in 29 years since Canucks Rangers on ESPN in 1994. But when they had ESPN doing some of those games, those ratings were big. Some of the TNT games not as well viewed, and 2 non-name brand teams that are playing a series that wasn't close.
I'll tell you something, though. TNT's broadcast right now, I would pick that over. And
I would, too.
No offense to ESPN right now, but I just like what TNT has going on.
It's good. It's good.
Because ESPN was the original of the hockey rights.
Yeah. Right.
But I think TNT's doing a good job.
ESPN has a good jingle.
Mm-hmm.
No jingle will ever. Ooh, we should do a draft of best jingles in sports.
Let's see, you'd win that one because I'd never listened to the jingles. I was more or less just stuck on. Let's get to the show.
Whoever wins the draft the week before that one is going to win because whoever can pick the SEC on CBS Music is going to win.
Yeah.
That's like all you need.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like the SEC going to ESPN is the biggest musical shift in our generation.
When does that happen?
2024.
Even bigger than the Beatles?
They have to have a real jingle. They can't just do this, the ESPN jingle they have now. They have to make a new jingle.
But you know what? You're not going to like it regardless, though.
No, that's not true.
On the switch up, the switch up never works.
No, I don't know.
You think so?
They switched to ESPN, and the jingle for ESPN is awesome.
You think so?
Yeah.
I couldn't even tell you what the ESPN jingle sounds like.
Honestly, they should just pay a lot of money for the rights to the same song. And just
I
take
agree. Because that's what everyone knows.
People do that all the time when you're acquiring businesses or you're acquiring. So like it's the IP. It's what comes with it. It's what the intellectual property. When people think of ESPN, they think of that jingle. So like it just makes sense.
Sounds like something from Mad Men.
The CBS SEC jingle makes my heart rate go up.
Why?
Because I think of Tim Tebow gator chomping in my face into the camera after they beat us by 40. I think of, a fumble through the back of the end zone in Tuscaloosa. Yeah, this is my battered ball syndrome. But this past year, I think of 52-49.
A stupid jump pass.
Oh, jump pass.
Well, I know.
That first year in Neyland when Tebow had like 4 rushes for 5 yards and all of them were 1 yard 4th and 1s and they got first downs on every single one of them.
We don't have to do this, Will, okay? Like,
no, we did.
A lot of that was my era too, Will.
We did the 2008 Steelers-Titans game, and you got to revel in the fact that the Steelers beat the Titans that day.
No.
You didn't revel about it on the show.
The Titans beat the Steelers that day.
I know, but the Steelers won the Super Bowl.
Coach Mack slapped me up the face and said they railed the Steelers that day. I wasn't even on the team, and I had residual from that. I mean, what are we talking about?
No, I'm not saying you. B-Mac was the one that got to say, like, well, we needed that game. We had to relive that team and the Algie Crumpler fumble.
I walked down the path of the shadow. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's...
I fear no evil.
Yeah, I fear no evil.
Okay.
I'm not even a Tebow fan. Like, not even. But that dink and dunk is stuck, and now it's in the NFL. And now you see guys use it. Derrick Henry.
Screw that jump pass.
Derrick Henry.
Loved it in Baltimore, but that's about it.
No, I hated it at all
times.
Can't have
it both ways. Can't have it both ways.
Well, you know what we can have coming up?
Yes, we can.
What we can have coming up next is installment number 2 of the RKW Draft. Teams that put their fan base through the most misery. Round 2
Here we go.
of our summer installment coming up next. It's time for the biggest draft in Nashville this week. In this studio, it's RKW, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors, right here on 104.5 The Zone. We are taking aim at teams that hate their fan bases. No, you had to do it for you. Right here on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. It is RKW Draft Day number 2. Kayla Anderson is the defending champion. I finished second. Rhett was third. Rhett's place will be taken by the one and only Robert Walsh today, and Ramon Foster will round up each round with the fourth pick.
I want to make this clear because is it teams that hate their fans or fans that are being just submitted to teams that continue to be?
Same thing in my, to me, I'm saying the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So, teams that put their fan bases through the most pain.
Yeah, that's okay.
Oh, yeah, let's do it.
I've got some creative ones here, too.
I got to go.
All right, here we go. Are we ready?
All right, Kayla Anderson with the number 1 overall pick. 4 rounds, snake draft. Here we go.
So it's a team that Ramon and Bert, love to just hate, to absolutely hate. They put bags over their heads many times. They've had 50 million quarterbacks, most of them not successful. They get lake effects. That's miserable.
Mm-hmm.
And they just can't really ever get the job done. No matter how highly rated they are going into the season. That's right. Those are those Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
Those are those Cleveland
Browns.
Pick.
That's fair. That's real good.
It's good pick. Easy 1-1 pick.
Very solid.
6-time consecutive.
Really high ceiling pick.
Yeah, summertime Super Bowl champions. Cleveland Browns.
Summertime.
Yeah, you ain't wrong.
They have had 34 quarterbacks since 1999. The Houston Oilers have won their division more recently than the Cleveland Browns.
Preach, my brother.
That is
Keep
one
going.
of my favorite pieces of NFL trivia. The Houston Oilers have won their division more recently than the Cleveland Browns.
Keep going. I got time.
I know you do. We could do this for a whole segment.
I could say bad stats about the Browns for 4 hours, and Ramon Foster would think it's like we'd get a Pulitzer Prize.
And again, it's only right that they got number 1 again, Caleb, because they suck every single time.
Yeah.
So you're 100%
as
correct.
usual, the Browns get the number 1 overall pick.
Yep, as usual. It's right on par.
So, for teams that put their fan base through the most pain, I am sticking in the NFL, and I was hoping this team would fall to me.
Okay.
Because in my opinion, putting your fan base through the most pain means you are on the doorstep, but you can't quite get over the hump to win a ring. And for that reason, the 4-time consecutive Super Bowl runners-up Buffalo Bills
Sure.
are my number 2 overall pick. I think the Buffalo Bills have put their fan base through the most pain because at least you can actually name their quarterbacks. You can name the players that played for them. Cleveland, I just know from my own experience as a Tennessee fan, the games that I've been the most hurt are when Tennessee is good and on the doorstep. Like Georgia State, I was so numb. It's okay, I guess I'm just not going to pay attention to this year. Mm-hmm. The Bills made their fans pay attention through February every year. And the ways that they lost those Super Bowls were agonizing.
Yeah.
So I've got Buffalo as my number 2 overall selection of my first pick.
Bert, I think it's on you, my brother.
It is on me. It is on me. And I'm glad we're all going NFL. I'm going to continue that trend.
A lot of NFL options.
A team that, judging by social media, you would think is on top of the world right now. You would think over the last 2 years that they've turned a corner, and I'm here to tell you they're still fair to Midland, just like they've always been. Before these last few years, before they got a kneecapping head coach, someone who drinks 2 gallons of coffee every day, they were a slacking franchise who gave their teams nothing to root for. And now they still don't have anything to root for. They didn't even have a positive record last year, and their fans are thinking that they're going to break through. Finally, my pick is the Detroit Lions.
Solid.
Those 3 were pretty much, those are 1, 2, and 4 on my board. Those teams.
That's solid.
I have a 3rd team in there, but obviously I'm not going to tell you.
So what we have: Browns, Bills,
and Robert going with the Lions.
Yep. Okay. I like it, Bert.
With the 4th overall pick, Ramon Foster gets 2 picks in a row here.
I get 2 picks in a row. Let's do this thing. Mine comes with an audio clip. Bert, are you ready to hit that play button?
Oh, my gosh.
I forgot we had a clip.
Yeah, we got an audio clip on this, and it was only right because it breaks down, y'all. It's history. We got to have this, okay?
Okay. Let's see.
And 7. And McCarron goes down the field, and it's caught and Breed's in for the touchdown to get an attempt at a winning field goal. Jones, middle of the field, and that is intercepted, and it's Perfect who comes away with the football.
They could have won their first playoff game in about 20-plus years, I think, in 2015 and 16. Your Cincinnati Bengals, okay?
Wow.
Instead, they pick off the ball and run through the through the gates off the field. They were celebrating. It was 1 minute and 36 seconds left. The probability, as I pull up my stats from the Cincinnati Bengals, the team that I was a part of, was 1 minute and 36 seconds left. The Cincinnati Bengals had a 96.3% chance to win the game. The Steelers had a 3.69% chance to win the game. You know what happened on the following plays? A fumble by the running back, because all he really needed to do was get one touchdown. He needed one first down in the game right there. A recovery. We get the ball back. Perfect also head-to-head penalty on Antonio Brown's. Boom, put us in field goal position. Also, Pac-Man Jones gets another personal foul. We win the game. We win the freaking game 18-16. They didn't get there. And on top of that, since they're still tormenting them, make it to the Super Bowl, lose that. And then they're talking so much trash right now, Burrowhead. You got Jamar Chase going at the defending Super Bowl champions. They toy with their fan base. They have really good quarterbacks. Cincinnati Bengals, 4th overall pick on this one. Next one on my list.
Terrible stadium, too, by the way.
Thank you.
Paul Brown is
I've been
horrendous.
there.
All slander is welcome. All slander is welcome.
Their fans booed us as we walked to our car, and they had one win that year.
They also historically booed the Pope.
They did. They will throw batteries at you if you're also exiting the field with an injury. That also happens. The next team, too, that I have on this list is actually the Jets.
Oh.
Are we picking all football?
Yeah, my next pick is not an NFL pick.
Yeah, my next pick's not. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, mine is the Jets. Well, this is easy for me.
Well, no, that's a good one.
Mine is the Jets because, look, the last time they won anything is when their quarterback guaranteed they were going to win the Super Bowl. They didn't. They had good teams. They beat really good teams.
Cool.
They had Brett Favre. They got Aaron Rodgers. They got the mom guy right now. Also, Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson.
Had really good coaches. I'm just thinking to myself, like, how can y'all not get it together? You're in a major city in America, and you're still second fiddle in your own state to the own football giants, the New York Giants. They can't even get that right. They tore their fans.
You could have said that about the Bengals, Ohio State, too, by the way.
Even more why they could have been number 1 overall pick.
Here's the other thing,
I got Cincy, then I got Jets.
And if they don't get it done with Aaron Rodgers at least making the playoffs, then it goes down even more as a fail, right? I mean, fans are going to be throwing batteries at Aaron Rodgers and the players.
$100 million cap hit.
Yeah.
Who's ever had that happen?
Robert Walsh, number 6.
I wish my cap hit was that high.
Right?
I'm not going. We're going off the NFL. The first non-NFL pick right here. I'm going to go with a fan base that think so highly of themselves they need their own broadcast. They are not broadcast. They won't even join a conference. Yet they haven't won something in 30 years. I'm picking Notre Dame.
Wow.
Because
great pick.
all these draft picks, all this fanfare, and they never win anything at all. So Notre Dame, and also Rudy was offsides. I'll throw that in there. I'm going with Notre Dame for my second pick.
And that's a great pick.
So good.
Because think about college brands that are so big, but yet it's like, what have you really done, though? And when you've been in the playoffs, like, you haven't really done anything even recently. Like, you get there maybe, but that's about all.
Fake girlfriends.
Can't get the job done. Is it Maitete? Maitete. I saw that documentary, actually. Pretty interesting. You know I'm a baseball girl through and through.
Now your turn.
It's not?
It's my pick.
Yeah, you went first.
Impermissible benefits.
No, I don't like being first. I'm going to lose this draft so I can go last.
All right, Ricky Bobby.
I was first last time. I feel you. Yeah, this is me. Gosh, there's some good choices here. There's a lot of value still left on the board. Yeah. There's a college team. There's a team in my own division of baseball. Actually, there are a couple in my own division of baseball that are good options. I'm going to go a little off the beaten path, though, guys.
Okay.
I'm going to go with one of the biggest fan bases in North American sports that is traditionally terrible, yet they just broke a streak of losing this past NHL playoff season. That's the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
The Toronto Maple Leafs are essentially the New York Yankees when it comes to fan bases in the NHL, them and the Montreal Canadiens. Mm-hmm. And the Toronto Maple Leafs just won their first postseason series since 2004. They had 6,948 days between playoff series victories, who had last won a postseason round on April 20th, 2004. The Toronto Maple Leafs find a way to choke every single playoffs.
Yep.
And I'm going to take them with the number 7 overall pick.
That's a great pick,
Thank
especially
you.
if you really know,
solid.
like Canadian hockey. Like I was saying, it's big up there. If you're not winning for that long and you're one of the biggest teams up there, like something is wrong with you. So yeah, I like it. I am a baseball girl, like I was saying. So the league's oldest franchise hasn't been killing it for years. They're right up the road in Cincinnati. The Big Red Machine once back in the day was the team.
Interesting.
They haven't been the team in a minute. That is the Cincinnati Reds.
Cincinnati taking a beating in this draft.
Cincinnati
They haven't won a playoff
Reds,
game in
baby.
like 30 years.
Yeah,
They
it's been a
have
while.
not won a playoff game. Okay, they haven't been. They won a World Series in what, 1990,
Yeah. There was it 90?
and they haven't won a playoff series since 1995.
It's not great.
Missed the postseason for 6 years in a row.
In 1990. Big Red Machine.
And we're talking about such a historic brand in baseball, just in sports, I feel like they've fallen off.
Fair.
Fair.
Okay. Pick number 9, Kayla.
I'm going to go ahead and take it to, I'm all over the place. I'm going to take it to the hard court.
Oh, okay.
And I'm going to go with the New York Knicks.
That's a great pick.
Great pick.
On my board.
that's
Great
so
pick.
good.
On my board. Yep.
Because, bro, whatever they try to do, whatever names they try to bring over there, they let those fans down.
Yeah, they do.
And New York, they love their sports, but those Knicks.
50-year drought since their last
Yeah.
NBA title now, 1974.
They shave years off Spike Lee's life every
And
season.
Stephen A. Smith.
Every
really
season.
gotta-
Like
he's
the
been
president, he gets
begging them
older.
to do the right thing for
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah.
So, again, with my third-round pick, I'm going to go again with a team that has some historic success and not even that long ago. But when you talk about Nebraska football, you have to talk about a team that just finished its 100th season in Memorial Stadium. They have a sellout streak, guys, of 61 years. They've sold out every game for 389 consecutive football games, and they have watched a lot of bad football in that time since the Tom Osborne days.
Yeah.
Give me Nebraska
True.
in the third round with teams that put their fan bases through the most misery.
What a good one.
It's on Bert now.
Robert Walsh, your penultimate pick, please, sir.
We're coming in with another NBA team, and let me read their stats just really quick. It
Okay.
won't take long. 0 championships, 0 conference titles, 0 division titles. But
Memphis?
the one category they do lead in is worst season in NBA history when they were the Bobcats. They went 7 and
yeah.
59.
There it is.
Great one.
I'm going the Charlotte Hornets because not only is Michael Jordan the GOAT of basketball, he is probably the GOAT of worst general managers of all time.
I would agree.
He's pulled in many players, and despite having LaMelo Ball, despite bringing a lot of players back in, they can never win anything. They can't even win in the playoff tournament to get into the playoffs. Charlotte Hornets fans, despite having great gear, great unis, they can never win anything. Hugo is a great mascot, but you got to give Hugo some help.
the
I'm going
Hornet.
Charlotte
Yeah.
Hornets.
That's fair. That's real
Like
good.
it.
All right, Ramon, 2 picks in a row.
2 picks in a row, real quick. And I'm going back to the NFL because I know them, and I hate that they draft early and they always suck anyway. But these 2 teams right here, okay?
Oh, you're going all NFL?
Yeah, I did because I
Look
know
at
them
you.
more personally, okay? And I just hate
I
that
know
they.
them
Yeah, here we go.
personally, he said.
Arizona Cardinals.
Bingo.
Good pick.
Never won nothing.
Good pick.
Simply put,
Ooh-wee.
what is the Arizona Cardinals? Bam. That's enough of that. Boom. Roasted. Next team. Next team. San Diego Chargers. And I called you San Diego because boom, roasted. You don't even have a team anymore. You're in LA. You play third fiddle, fifth fiddle, ninth fiddle to everything going on in LA. Boom, roasted.
I was going to do the St. Louis Rams and make that same argument of like, yeah, because you don't have a team anymore, so your fan base
Yep.
And
is
their
in a lot
fan
of
base is
misery.
just terrible. The Chargers, terrible fan base. Back on me.
yeah, the small. We always say the smallest fan base in the NFL.
All right, guys. I'm going way off the board here, but when you were kids, when we were all kids, we used to go see a certain team play. The Harlem Globetrotters.
Yeah.
And the team that they played against have never won a game. So if you're a fan of this team, you don't
Thought
get
about doing this too.
you don't get anything out of it. I'm going with the Washington Generals.
Outstanding
As
pick.
my final pick.
That's great. Well
Boom,
done.
roasted.
That's really, really good. Oh, my goodness.
good.
There are a lot of options here. I'm going to give some of my thoughts here. So there's one team that's never had a 4,000-yard passer in their franchise's history that's been playing football for like literally 50 years that I'm not going to pick. I'm going to double doink over to a different team. There's bad owners. There's the team that was owned by Dan Snyder. They get a little relief now, the Commanders, even though they have a terrible name and a terrible mascot and a terrible jingle. But there is one team that has, I think, the most improbable streak in sports that I think is the most miserable baseball fan base, and it's not close. And again, the theme of all my picks are these teams used to be good, so their fans had a taste of success, and now they're terrible.
That's mine, too.
Guys, the Minnesota Twins have lost 18 straight playoff games. 18 straight playoff games. From 2004 to 2019, the Twins lost 16 straight. 13 of them were to the Yankees. Then you think, okay, 2020 comes around. This is great. 3-game series, and all the games are played in Minnesota. All you got to do is beat the sub-500 Astros. Nope. Astros swept them 2 out of 3. In you go. We'll see you. The Minnesota Twins are my fourth and final pick. 18 straight playoff losses. And again, I think the state of Minnesota, the city of Minneapolis, has been through as much pain in terms of their sports team as any city in America. So give me Minnesota and the Twins with my last pick.
So if I can do this, if not, I'll pick another one. How about just all the Oakland teams that are now going to Vegas? There's no hope for Oakland.
I'll allow it.
Erased.
If the committee allows.
So I'll allow that.
Talk about a fan base, and they're going to be no more. I mean, they can convert to Las Vegas.
That's fair.
That's fair.
Any team from
I
Oakland.
wanted to get creative.
That's acceptable.
That's real good. I've seen people hop out of cars and go fight fans at that stadium. Yeah.
And their teams just
so
win.
We've got Browns, Reds, Knicks, and just Oakland for Kayla. I've got Bills, Maple Leafs, Nebraska, and Minnesota, which if you're in the 90s, you love the success all those teams are having now. Now, just nothing. Robert has Lions, Notre Dame, Hornets, and Washington Generals. Ramon went all NFL, Bengals, Jets, Cardinals, Chargers. We'll give the honorable mentions coming up next and put out our Twitter poll when we come back on our boat, Kayla and Will. It's Ramon, Kayla, and Will, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors for one final segment on your Thursday. Can't believe it's already Thursday.
It is.
Been a fast week.
Yep.
Fast 4 hours this morning. 615-737-1045, the number. We got Alex Doherty at 10:20 on the Buck Rising Show coming up. You also have Alan Judd talking Georgia football.
Oh.
And their off-the-field issues that have been very much in the news. Investigative reporter from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, who will be on the Buck Rising Show at 12:20. If you want to lose your faith in humanity, by the way, go to the reply section of a lot of these investigative reports about Georgia football.
Yeah.
It's kind of gross.
Is it?
It's terrible. It's terrible. All right, so honorable mentions for teams that put their fan bases through the most misery. Who did we not get to on our draft boards here?
Who's first, Kayla?
Or me? New York Mets have got to be the one that I can't believe nobody picked.
That's tough.
They haven't won a World Series since the 80s. They won over 100 games last year, and then they gave up the largest lead in the history of baseball by a team that didn't win their division in 10.5 games against the 2021 World Series champion Atlanta Braves.
Yep.
Who are the best team in baseball now, by the way. So the Mets were the one that I thought should have been picked by somebody. But we all had good picks.
I was going to do the Bears if I couldn't.
Go
do
ahead.
the
What
Oakland
is your honorable
teams.
mention there?
Yeah, I think the Bears because the Bears. Like, that's the saying, right?
That's right.
The Bears. Like,
Good
they
show.
had success a long time ago. And then it's just like the Cubs. They could never reach the pinnacle again.
The Cubs, another one.
Yeah.
That nobody.
Well,
Yeah.
Rangers recently won, though.
I know, but they still
Yeah,
went
but
they still went 108 years.
And look what Bartman did just as a fan in general to that team.
I'm almost
just
saying, look
joking.
what they did to Bartman.
That's
tore
true
me.
because
That's
you
fair,
know
too.
it should have been a player who was actually blamed for that
Exactly.
whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Who lost? Why they lost again?
Bert, you got your honorable mention?
Yeah, I'd like to throw the Toon Stars in there because if their superstar ever if they lost Jordan or LeBron, and with load management, if they ever had to play more than one game, they would stink. Go look at their stats. It's like Lola carries them, like she's obviously their number 2, but Bugs comes off the bench with a couple rebounds and assists, and we're automatically saying they're just a well-rounded team. Like I would throw the Toon Squad in there.
One assist, and he's just a phenomenal speech guy. Yeah, he's the speech guy for them.
And he stutters, does he? Oh, that's Daffy.
That's Daffy.
Daffy's kind of like I would. Who was
Did
in
I stutter?
Did I stutter?
a little bit?
My honorable mention, man, and some might not like me for this one, but I got to do it anyway. It's
Okay.
Thursday, Friday Junior. We got to act like it. Vanderbilt football.
Yeah.
They lead them on. They get a ticket to the cookout every year because they're in the SEC. They fire a coach, hire a coach. Recruiting's on the way up. They have the ability to be one of those teams because they're in the hottest city in the SEC, and it's not even close before Texas came in, and now Austin's in it, okay? You get in Nashville, and we can't do this thing right. Like, you tease us with beating UT every once in a while. You tell us that everything is just going to change. And I'm just like, you know what, man? I'm sorry I had to do this to y'all, Vandy, but we're getting closer and closer to the football season. SEC Media Days is coming up.
Starting fights now.
It's time to start fights. You feel me, Kayla?
Starting fights now.
Vandy football's in that conversation to me, too, because they got a loyal fan base. You're in one of the best cities in the SEC, and we can't get this thing right. Vandy
Fair.
football.
Sacramento Kings, another one. They have the longest drought in pro
Yep.
sports. It's 72 years since they've won a title since those 1951 NBA finals.
But they got a beam though.
They do have a beam, so their fan
They
base is
light
no
it.
longer in misery because they light the beam.
Right.
Praise to all be to be the beam.
Praise to the
And
beam.
plus, guys, that's really the only pro team in SAC.
Oh,
So think about it. Like your
Yeah.
only pro team, and they've disappointed you for that many years.
yeah.
Right.
Yikes.
Fair.
Yeah. It's a lot that can go into this one, though, legitimately.
Dallas Cowboys, another good pick.
Yep.
But again, they had some good times in the 90s. Yeah. Like, if you're of a certain age, you don't really care.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you care, but, you know.
You don't. You do, but you don't.
Right.
Atlanta's in it because that 28-3 is never going to go down.
Until the Braves World Series, I would have said just Atlanta sports fans.
Yeah.
And then Atlanta United won and the Braves won. in
Georgia
2021.
just got off the list.
And then Georgia now. Yeah, Georgia
Yeah.
was the SEC team that put their fan base through the most pain because Georgia-ing was a verb in a negative connotation back in the day. Until, I mean, that was always the thing. You'd get in an argument on Twitter with a Georgia fan, and you could just respond 1980 and say nothing else.
Another one that
Last time
should
they
have
had a
made it,
title.
Miami University.
Miami's another
Oh,
one.
that.
Well, that's another one. Yeah, for sure.
Love
but
it.
nobody down there cares now. They don't go to games. Like, that's why Nebraska was my pick over them, is because at least Nebraska has a sellout streak going back like 60 years.
If you're going to pick a team in the ACC, you should pick NC State. Because they get little brothered by UNC. Their players always transfer out. If you look at their quarterback left, Tommy White left, and they always look. They didn't even get to play a bowl game because UCLA said, "Oh, we're too hurt to play." So
I forgot about that.
NC State just gets the short end of the stick in the ACC all the time in college football, in basketball, in baseball. They cannot get over the hill. If you're going to pick somebody in the ACC, I'd say them.
I've always said I thought NC State was more popular than Clemson when I came out. It was more guys in my recruiting class that was like, man, I was this close to going to NC State, which leads us to see why. Yeah, NC State was hot.
Other one in the SEC is Mississippi State, because in their school's history, they have one college sports championship, and that's in baseball a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And their best coach in their history left to go to another school within the conference.
Think about how many superstars in the league from Mississippi State, too.
I got to put my Mariners in there, too, man.
Yeah, they had the longest pro
about
sports drought in playoffs until this past year.
Mm-hmm.
It's fair.
State got some studs in the league, man. They do. Jeffrey Simmons, here.
Chris Jones,
another
Dak
one.
Prescott.
Dak, another one.
Manuel Forbes now,
Come on, man.
the corner, first-round pick. Not bad. We're back at it again, 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. It will be a Friday, and I promise you we will successfully act like it here on RKW. Our weekly conversation, Talking Vols with Brent Hubbs. We've got CBS Sports play-by-play man Ian Eagle stopping by, and we've got 4 great hours on deck for you. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 6 a.m.
And you got to remember at all times, okay, good people, if you can get into your Twitter finger's always hot. If your IG Live is on, it's hot. And your mic, I promise y'all, is always hot, too.
Help him with his Twitter.
The Zone.